G'day and welcome to the Hunting Connection podcast. My name is Zach Williams and I am your host. Here we'll connect you with hunters, fishers and outdoor enthusiasts from around the globe. This podcast will share hunting and fishing stories, including past experiences, and tackle the tough hunting stereotypes our community faces. We hope to be a positive influence to those outside the community while also having a laugh along the way. Hope you enjoy the podcast. G'day and welcome to another episode of Hunting Connection podcast. On today's episode, we have Synjon, the Aussie Outdoorsman. How you going?
Not bad, yourself, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. How's your weekend been?
Good. Been busy with farm work, so not too much hunting happening this weekend, but I got out during the week, so I'm not complaining.
That's good. At least you can still get out there, you know. We'll jump into where you're from.
Yeah, so I was born and bred over here in Perth, Western Australia, and moved to the country 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, beautiful.
And then, we bought a farm and trying to make a go of that. But as the ATO will find out this year, it's a great way to lose money.
How big's the property?
We just got 40 acres.
Yeah.
We're just having a go of kind of small stuff and doing more intensive stuff, building up with orchards and that sort of thing as we can, and just kind of throwing money from our day jobs into it, and hopefully eventually it'll make some money back.
Beautiful. Is it just keeping you guys self-sufficient to start off with? Was that the plan, or?
Yeah, so we're doing truffle trees is the long-term goal, which is a 10-year plus kind of return game. But in the small term, we started a veggie garden, and we're doing all that sort of stuff as well. And hopefully we'll probably do some small scale stuff like garlic or stuff like that. My wife and I both have full-time jobs as well. So this is just kind of a way to lose money at the moment.
Yeah, beautiful. What do you do for work?
Yeah, I run my own plumbing business.
Yep.
And I'm also a dog handler in the truffle industry.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
How'd you get into the dog handling for the truffle industry?
I got into it through hunting, actually. So a mate of mine, Will, I started hunting with him quite a lot, and we both hunt with dogs. Different stuff. Mine are pointers and retrievers and stuff, and his are more pig dogs. And we were out like multiple times, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, so would you be interested in doing this?" He kind of gave me, because he already did it as well, so he kind of gave me the tap on the shoulder, and I was like, "Hell yeah!" Like a way to actually earn a bit of money while getting to work my dogs. So I was all about that, and jumped at the chance and apprenticed, and been doing that for like 8 or 9 years now.
Yeah, wow. So what goes into training a dog to find truffles?
It's not as hard as you'd think for the first kind of stage. Like if you can train a dog to find a dead rabbit in a field, or find a pheasant, or find whatever bird in the field, you'll be fine. Yeah, but the problem with training a truffle dog over just a standard hunting dog is your dog needs to be able to, all the truffles smell different, and we only want the dog finding the ripe truffle. So it's a 3-month season, so they ripen over that 3 months. It's like a way I describe it is it's like a apple tree underground. And so you got to think that the dog needs to be able to know all of the multiple different scents that everyone smells, and then know when they're ripe. And the only real way to get your dog to that stage is just lots and lots of truffle after that initial training. So it usually takes about 3 years plus to get your dog really settled in to being a really proficient dog.
So do you have separate dogs for that, or did you teach your hunting dogs?
So I transitioned my hunting dogs into that.
Yeah, cool.
And it was really interesting. So I run Hungarian Visslers, and we breed our own ones and stuff as well. And so it was my eldest dog. I transitioned her into it first, and she was already a really proficient hunting dog. Like we'd shot like 100 pigs together.
Yeah, beautiful.
Like she could retrieve rabbits, all that sort of stuff. Like she'd point flush, everything. And her like transition into training as like a full-time truffle dog during the season was actually really quick. And so it was interesting to see that it's just like that working once they kind of mature up a bit, and they kind of, you've worked them before, they could transition quite steadily into the work.
Yeah, that's wicked. What's the truffle season? When are you heading off looking for them?
Now, yeah. So basically the beginning of June, last week of May, until weather dependent somewhere in August, usually around mid-August it kind of ends. And so you'll hunt your properties pretty much every week to just try and take the right ones out of the paddock.
Yeah, wicked. Are they what are they? Black truffles, white truffles?
Yeah, so black truffle melanosporum.
Yep.
So that's like the second most valuable truffle that there is, but no one really has commercially produced white truffle,
Okay.
or true white truffle as it's called. There's some not true white truffles that you can produce, but the melanosporum is the kind of the most valuable one to run in a commercial setting.
Yeah, beautiful.
So that's what we've planted. We've got our first 80 trees in the ground that we put in last year, and we'll keep planting hopefully 200 a year until we build up to about 1,200 trees.
Yeah, wow. And what trees are they? I remember watching a documentary on it, but I can't remember for the life of me what trees you're...
Yeah, so they grow on oaks and hazelnuts.
Yep.
So they grow on an English oak, a French oak, and hazelnuts. So we're planting a mixture of all three.
Yeah, beautiful.
So it'll be something like 30 to 40% oaks to 50 to 60% hazels, somewhere around there, depending on what the nursery gives us and what we can get at the time.
And so they just grow like through the mycelium in the root system?
Yeah. So you buy your little seedling, which is 15 centimeters tall from the nursery, and they've already pre-inoculated the roots, and the roots are the mycelium is living on those roots.
Yeah, cool.
And then when you plant those trees out, when the roots of all of those trees meet up and they kind of start chatting to each other, and the mycelium connects and the different organisms will chat, that's actually when you'll start to get your truffles producing. And so you need the roots to spread out and chat to each other, and then that's when you'll start producing truffles, which is why it kind of takes so long, because you need that 5 to 7 years to actually have the roots touch and start chatting.
Yeah, cool. How likely is it there to be just say of some hazelnut trees growing, how likely would there be truffles on them?
Almost zero unless they've intentionally done it. Yeah.
Okay.
So we bought it from nurseries that have inoculated those trees, and then on top of that we chucked on 100 plus tons of lime and 15 tons of dolomite onto that paddock, and we will regularly water over summer as well. So it's pretty intensive over a long time. Like the nice thing is that it's a viable option for a small holding in our climatic region. So hopefully it all works. I'm tired of plumbing.
I bet. I know that there's a few truffle farms here in the Adelaide Hills. The weather seems to be pretty good for it. We got all sorts of fungi growing through the hills as well. So we got a spot where we get porcinis and
I've read about that. I'm quite jealous of that you guys get that. Our wild mushroom situation over in WA is like very, very limited, whereas like the East Coast guys have the saffron milk caps and the Lepidolus and some other stuff. We've kind of, our stuff over WA, the stuff that is native, is very undescribed still. Like I was chatting I'm lucky enough to down the road have a mycologist who runs a chalet place, and I was chatting to her, and she's like, I go out, I walk in the national park, and every time I pretty much describe a new species. I'm like, it just seems insane to me that they're still describing new species of mushroom all the time. But yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's that gathering side of stuff has been intriguing me the last few years. Like, we get saffron milk caps here. We get we get heaps of different species. We get what are the ones that the Americans go nuts over with the holes in them? Morels. We get morels over here as well. I haven't found any yet, but they're in the area that I chase deer, so it's just got to be awesome. the right time. We've had a few bushfires go through like within the last 10 years, and that sets them off. So that's kind of my goal is to find some morels.
That's awesome. I know we get them over here. Like I've seen them pop up in like people's wood pine chips that they get from Bunnings and stuff. And I'm always like that was before I kind of knew what I was looking at, and now that I know what I'm looking for, like I've never seen one again.
Oh no.
So like I'm sure I'll find one day, but I'm not holding that much hope.
Yeah, that's them I want to find. I want to find a porcini. I haven't gone looking for them, so of course I haven't found them. But I found some pine mushrooms and shaggy mane witches hats.
The shaggy ink caps.
It's shaggy ink caps. They've got like 3 or 4 different names. They were pretty cool. But they're insane. Like I didn't realize that if you pick them and you don't go cook them straight away, and you don't get them in the fridge straight away, they start inking and they just dissolve into ink. Like it's insane. But you can use that ink to make the ink pasta as well. So
that's cool.
But yeah,
Yeah,
so
like I'd love to play with more of that sort of stuff, and like I'd love to even trial planting a few different species of trees that might host
yeah,
those kind of
wicked.
mushrooms on the farm. So I've been playing with a lot of that sort of stuff. It's kind of fun having your own little property because I can, play around with planting different things. Like I planted some juniper trees recently. So I'm gonna have like a whole spice and botanical corner.
Yeah, cool.
And do stuff like that and just kind of play around with stuff because it's your farm. You can do what
Yeah.
you want, and if in 10 years' time I don't like it, I'll just cut it out and put something else there.
No, that's wicked.
So I'm having fun with that, and I love those kind of things that produce. Like I've always been interested in anything you can kind of bring a meal home from. Like I always used to say to friends, like you could point at a mountain and I have zero interest in it. You could put some animal up there and I'd be like, let's go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm exactly the same, man. I enjoy hiking, but if I've got a goal at getting like hunting something at the end of that hike, it makes it so much more enjoyable. And then adding this foraging side of stuff, we've got pretty rich areas with blackberries here. So as a kid, like just picking as many blackberries as you can, and now that you've got field mushrooms here and a bunch of different stuff here. So like working it out slowly. There is a lady that runs a mushroom course that I've been pretty interested in doing, but
That's
this year's
cool.
been pretty slow for the mushroom side of things.
Yeah, it same over here, even for the truffle side of things. It never really got cold.
Yeah.
And we've only really just like today we got buckets of rain, but like most of this winter's been dry for us, which has been interesting. Even like the summer we had, I don't know about you guys, but our summer was horrible. It was just literally normally we're used to getting 3 or 4 good rain events over summer. Like it never really gets like the paddocks are usually pretty green over summer here. And it was horrible. Like it was just really dry. Like the feed was so bad this year, for farming wise, which we saw I found really affected the deer rut in a lot of places that I went hunting. They just didn't rut like they normally do.
Yeah, it was the same here. We had some big rain, late December, mid-December, maybe some January, and then nothing from January to like mid-April. And it just affected everything the same as well, The deer weren't as active, and there was some croaking here and there, but it was just trying to pick it right.
Oh, like normally some of the paddocks I go to, like you'd be shocked to not see 2 or 3 different bucks, and all holding different does over a couple thousand acres.
Yeah. And
this year, I saw one run, like a couple of runs, nothing that really inspired me to want to try and shoot it.
Yeah.
And I was really surprised about that. And I chatted to a mate of mine who's a vet, and he was basically, I said, my theory was that because the feed was so bad over, excuse me, like December, like we basically didn't get rain from November last year.
Yeah. Wow.
Which ironically, I plowed a paddock in November thinking we'd get rain and it would regrow and be nice and smooth and beautiful. And then it was a dust bowl of hell next to my house. And then, so like basically there was just no feed on the ground. So, my theory was that the does didn't go into estrus because they didn't have the feed condition. And a mate who's a vet basically said he thought that's quite likely, with how poor condition everything was. And like normally I'll shoot a deer or 2 in February every year, just as like a real good eater. You pull off heaps of fat off them, which I render for candles or soap and stuff. And this year there was just like I shot one and we barely pulled any fat off it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Normally the fattest time here is that December period. The bucks, as they're growing out, will have an inch and a half of fat on their rump. But yeah, I try and avoid hunting them over that summer bit. Just
I haven't shot a velvet buck yet.
It's too hard to try and get the meat back and out, and I like a nice winter's day where you can take your time, nice cold and wet, and that's probably
you
like
get up at 7 a.m.
Yeah, that's it. And when it's the rut and it's still 30 degrees out, everything's crunchy. You're not trying as hard. Where if you got I find if you got a nice cool day, nice misty, nice fog rolling through or a light rain, you hunt slower. It's cooler, and you're not worried about shooting something and then having the meat turn on you in that time. So, and over here it's just thick, so it's just cornflakes when you're walking through, so it's so hard to get to anything.
Yeah. Some of the plantation places I've hunted over the years are the same, is that you basically in summer you can't hunt it really because it's just so loud if you're trying to move at all. and the feed's not in those plantation places, so that you can't just stay still because you kind of got to move to spot to spot to spot. So yeah, like it was a weird year this year. It was not, but I managed to get out and get other stuff, so I'm not complaining.
Yeah, we'll get into that later. We'll jump into how you got into hunting. How did that all start off?
I was always keen on the outdoors when I was a kid, and like I always used to go fishing and all that sort of stuff. And I loved it. My parents were not like, they amused me with it. They're like, all right, we'll go. Like my mum, like we used to go to a Rottnest Island. It's off the coast of WA, and we would share one of these houses with another family, and I'd sleep in a tent in these villas and stuff.
Yeah,
but then every night, like it was great because it was safe. Like I would go as like a 6 and 8 and 10-year-old and go fishing off the jetty and just catch herring for hours and hours and hours. And I always wanted to like expand that and go hunting, and I was always interested in that, but never really had the option. And then we did a family holiday to Europe when I was, I want to say 14, 15. And friends of ours over there, they own a castle with land around it and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's cool. And so we got to stay with them, and it was the time of year where they do their driven hunt. So I got to be a beater on that, and then I got to see a shooter in the afternoon, and like that would really spark the fire in me. I was like, this is insane. Like, this is so good. The respect for animals, the whole ceremony behind it, like how everything was done, and then just seeing the animals, and then like the big feed at the end of the day. I was like, this is just awesome. And then so that's what really kind of got me going when I got back to WA, and then I kind of just hassled anyone I knew who did hunting, and I was lucky. One of our family friends was like, oh yeah, okay, all right, let's go. And he took me out to one of their goat trips, which is, went chasing goats and donkeys for 5 days.
Beautiful.
And they shot some donkeys, and then I got to shoot my first goats, and that was just awesome. And then after that, basically the day I turned 18, I put in for my gun license, and I was door knocking every single weekend for years, just trying to get like properties and more properties. And like every year I'd be like, this is the year I'm going to shoot a deer. And like never, like it took me 6 years of door knocking and finding new properties to get my first deer. It only took me 3 years to get a pig, ironically, which I was pretty happy about. But yeah, so that interest sparked as soon as I saw it. It was just like, it was in me. Like, that's everything wicked. Else in my life that I'd done, like was, I did lots of outdoor stuff and other stuff and jumped from hobby to hobby, but I felt like it was all kind of in search of that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just like a mate of mine who I got into it as well. We call it kind of glorified bushwalking or armed bushwalking. Because you go out and like, as long as you have the intent of getting something or like bringing some meat home or trying to find something, like you just happier.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely know the feeling. So you said you went over to Europe. Whereabouts in Europe did you go, and what were they hunting?
So in Germany, and
beautiful.
So it's real regimented over there. So it was driven hunts. So everyone had posts and spots where they were shooting, and then the beaters all pushed stuff through the forest. And so it was wild boar, fox, deer were on the thing. So antlered deer were allowed as well. Not antlered roe does, but antlered stags were allowed, provided they weren't what they call a trophy stag.
Yeah.
So it was like a lot of, at that time, I couldn't have told you what was a trophy and what wasn't in their eyes, but it was basically anything kind of under 8 points was allowed to be shot. Anything over that was not allowed to be shot. And very much they said if they were shooting hinds, they wanted the fawn shot first and then the adult hind shot. And like they're real strict protocols for everything. And it was snowing, so I was freezing my balls off as an Aussie. And yeah, because we'd come from like 40 odd degrees and like went over there. I was like, oh my god, this is a lot. But yeah, it was like a special thing. And then at the end of the day, like they line up all of the things that have been shot, and there's actually a song for every animal.
Yeah, cool.
So every animal that's actually been shot that day had a different like song from the trumpets and everything. So it was awesome.
They do the last feed over there type thing where they put a bit of grass in the mouth and. Yeah,
so there was a pine bough in each animal's mouth, and then they lay the head on a pine bough as well, and so that's pretty cool. And it was interesting. So they had a game dealer processor there at the one time. So all he's doing is gutting and skinning after that, just for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, wow.
I think there was like 30 odd deer shot, a couple foxes, and the only pig that was seen that day, ironically, because there was a bounty on pigs, was like, as the hunter got back into the car at the end of the day, one ran across the front of the car and the guns all put away and everything's safe, but he was like swearing when he got back to the festival, so to speak.
Yeah, that's crazy. I had a couple Danish guys on, and they were going about the whole process of getting your hunting permits and your licensing, and it's like a full uni course, like a 6-month uni course to be able to go hunt roe deer and red stag and fallow and sika over in Denmark. Like it's those European countries. Like, yes, it's a pain in the ass because it's like hard to get in, like harder barrier to entry. But, it's just a much better process than we have here. Like, I like it here because the barrier to entry is so low. If you've got a license and you've got property, you can go out, no matter how experienced you are. But it is cool, like, having the whole course behind it and, people actually knowing what they're doing before they head out, rather than, you see here someone, I just shot my first deer. What do I do? How do I skin it? How do I gut it? What can I eat? So it's...
No, 100%. Like, we had one of them came and stayed with us for 6 months when he was in high school.
Yeah,
and did high school with us and stayed with us and everything in Australia. And he was studying for his hunting license when he came and stayed. And he showed me the books that he had, and it goes through calibers, it goes through shot placement, it goes through all this sort of stuff. It was like it was a full-on, like, you're not wrong, like a university course. And like in some ways, I like that. But then in other ways, like, I agree, like, the barrier of entry is just too high, too expensive. I almost like the UK course, that it's an optional course, but if you do that, then you can sell the meat.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great in between, because a lot of the guys over there do that so that they can sell the meat and move that on to butchers and stuff. And I think if we had a similar thing where you could do a course like that and then move the meat, but you don't have to do the course to go hunting. I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, it would be. I also had a fella that lives in WA, but he was from Ireland, so he done his deer hunting course over there, and the sika and the red stags and all of that, and talked about the commercial side of it, and it's incredible. It'd be cool to have something like that here, where we could, whether for commercial reasons where you're selling it, or just to be able to get it packaged for yourself, take it to a butcher and be like, here's my deer, can you turn it into Metwurst? It would help a lot of people out. I know a lot of people do it, and that's the fun of doing it. I like butchering it, but just I'm always doing the primal cuts, like very ribs, mince all the all the other bits, and just have your standard roasts. And if I want to turn them into steaks, I can turn them into steaks or cut them into jerky. Just keep it very, very simple. Make bone broth out of the thighs and the shanks and all of that type of stuff. But yeah, having the option to take it to a butcher would be so good.
Yeah, well, like in New Zealand, you can take it to your butcher.
Yeah.
You can drop your pig off or your deer off or whatever, and all that sort of stuff. Do you eat a lot of wild meat? Are you on most nights wild meat? Are you on
about 50-50? My wife gets sick of the wild game. She likes chicken and lamb. Like I love lamb. I love pork. Yeah. So it's having no access to wild pigs here. We eat a lot of about 50-50. So. Yeah, and I'll eat a lot more of it than her. So, she might have like a chicken stir fry, and I'll just have some venison steaks or something like that, which is nice. Yeah, we're on about almost 100%. Like, beautiful.
We have, as I said, haven't found wild chickens yet. So we have chicken probably once a fortnight, maybe once a month, something around there. But also, like, because we live, our nearest store is half an hour away. So we eat out of the freezer most nights of the week. So, we're always eating wild meat and all that sort of stuff. And so I've gotten real particular about my butchering and processing and all that sort of stuff, just because my wife was anti-hunter before we got together. Wow. And now she helps me butcher stuff and process it. And ironically, like, when me and her package a deer, we'll do it faster than me and some of the blokes that I go hunting with. Like, we'll sit at the bench and she'll be like, just get out the way. I'm like, yes, please just go sit to the side. We'll get this deer processed in like 45 minutes and you can just make us coffees. Like, so like we get real particular about that sort of stuff, like, and just processing it all nice and trying to have as much variety as possible as well. So we'll mince front shoulders. We have shanks, which 90% of the time go into a curry.
Yeah, beautiful.
And back legs a lot for steaks or roasts or stir fries or but we do a lot of mince, and then pretty much always the back straps I cut out as racks of chops, so to speak. But more like the tomahawk, so that the spine's not in it, so it's really easy to cut them into little medallions like a lamb rack.
Yeah, it's beautiful having the venison chops like that. It's so good. But I love back straps, just straight, cut them into little minute steaks, and if I give away venison, which I do quite a bit to workmates, and my barber was the last person I gave some venison to, and I just sliced up some back strap and cut it into minute steaks. Told her chuck it in a marinade of whatever she liked, and then just do it as like little minute steaks. And she wasn't a massive fan of it, but her husband and her kids absolutely loved it. So I've got requests to bring some more venison in next time I shoot one.
Nice. Because we cook, and then we probably have people stay with us 25 to 30 weekends a year.
Yeah, wow.
So like we used to cook, and people come down and it's like, well, you're getting wild meat. Like, it just is what it is. But like I like to do the kind of those chops as a whole wrap, because I do them on the Traeger. And so it brings the temperature up a little bit slower, and so you can get a bit better of a crust and then bring them up really slowly. And then if you really want, you can do a reverse sear on it as well. But if you haven't got yourself a pellet grill or something, I think I've sold like 3 or 4 of them to people that have come down, eaten wild meat, and like, oh, that's just way better on that than it is a gas burner.
Oh, it's definitely on the list one day. When we upgrade house and get a slightly bigger house, the pellet grill is definitely on the agenda. It's something that I've wanted for quite a while for that reason. And then you can do your sausages and metwurst and smoke all of that type of stuff as well.
Yeah, we probably cook on it like 4 or 5 nights a week now. And like, I'd really hoped it was going to be hype. Like, when I got it, I was like, surely this isn't actually that good. And then I got it and I was like, damn it, it's that good. Like, and you cook everything on it. Like, especially with wild meat stuff that just doesn't have that fat content.
Yeah.
It really just doesn't dry your meat out unless you really go nuts on it. Like, and you cook it to ash. It just doesn't dry out like you get out of a gas burner or your oven or your pan, really.
Yeah, beautiful.
So I'm a big fan of those, and it just I half the fun to me of hunting is cooking stuff properly.
Yes.
Or like learning to do all that sort of stuff and do things interestingly, and like, as I said, like half an hour from the nearest place, so we don't have takeaway. And so, like, we get bored of what we're eating. Like, we've got to be a little bit creative and try and cook something else and keep it new.
Yeah, that's it. I do lasagnas, and I'm not a massive fan of adding like pork fat into the mince. I know lots of people are, but me personally, I just love that venison mince by itself.
We don't add, like, so our venison or our wild meat's always pure meat. Like, the sausages, we really should. The last few times we haven't, and it doesn't hold that texture, but we have substituted out for olive oil. Or we've done butter in the past as well.
Yeah, beautiful.
Which works out really, like, especially if you're doing like something like not like a bratwurst, but like a almost one of the sausages that lend itself to being boiled and then smoked.
Yeah. Like
the butter, you can almost semi-freeze that and then grate that and mix that through your meat, and you get a really good consistency through that, like your little fat explosion bubbles. Really nice.
Yeah, wicked. I'll have to try that. I did some venison carnivore burgers not long ago, and it was just cheese and bacon, and it's so good. I cooked them up for a bunch of guys at work.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, I usually try and time my days I'm home and then try and cook like basically just meat and cheese and eggs.
So good. You said you started off hunting with rifle, and I see that you do a bit of bow hunting. What was the progression from rifle hunting to bow hunting, and you still rifle hunt?
So I do both. So I actually started off bow hunting first. I got a recurve bow.
Yeah, beautiful.
And I put a rabbit on the ground, and that was it. And that was when I was 17, so I couldn't get a gun yet. And basically, the minute I got a gun, I was like, I want some meat. Like, I want to bring something home. And so I got a rifle, and I went away from the bow for 5 or 6 years, just because my success was very low. It was only really when I started putting quite a few pigs on the ground, and I was getting really close to pigs as well. Like, I've got some old footage of, like, from my ATN shot track and stuff like that, where I was like, it was like 5x magnification on those old, like, cameras, or that you'd bolt onto your scope, and you just can see, like, this blurry pig, because I was like 15 meters from these pigs. And I had quite a few situations where I was like, all right, I want to make this harder because I'm loving this. I'm getting really close. I want to kind of up to next level. And that's when I got back into the bow, like last 4 years, I want to say.
Yeah, beautiful.
But that's very much been a luxury item. It's like, all right, I filled the freezer, I can pull the bow out, and I can go like that. And I can practice quite a lot being on a farm. So I've got a range set up. So I've got a 20-meter target and a 40-meter target, and I can set and practice and all that sort of stuff. But if my freezer's empty, the bow's not coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was very much a way to, like, okay, if my freezer's full and I go out, like, I know I've got a relatively good chance of getting something. And I didn't want to not go out because, like, I was almost certain going to get something. Whereas if I go out with the bow and my freezer's full, it's like my odds are so low that it's still really exciting. Like, I'm like, all right, cool. If I got something, I'll make it work, and it's awesome. And, like, but if I don't get anything, I've still managed to have a morning out.
No, that's wicked. And so I've seen through your Facebook page, you know, you get onto a bunch of different critters. What critters do you have around the area?
So probably 90% of what I'm chasing nowadays is fallow deer. In the last year, I've picked up through a mate of mine. I shot my first red. Theoretically, Tuesday morning, I might shoot my first rooster with another mate. Yeah, so that'll be the WA hat trick of deer. And then there's pigs not far from some of my deer properties. I've been going looking for them, and I haven't managed to connect yet. But I had a lot of properties that I've still got access to, but I don't really go as much anymore since I moved to the country, because they're now a lot further than so yeah, like, I kind of focus a lot on the deer and that sort of stuff, and then I generally try and get away once a year, if not twice a year, chasing donkeys.
Yeah, wicked.
Yeah,
how good.
Yes,
So what's the deer population like through Western Australia? Is it pretty confined, or they've got scattered populations?
How do I say things without giving away
locations?
People would be shocked the fact that the deer are almost everywhere now. But we're like 10 to 30 years behind the eastern states. And I when I first started my page, I really didn't have much hope for the deer population in WA. I knew, like, between me and probably two mates, we could pin every deer population on a map. And I had half a dozen of those that I was like, these aren't going to make it. Just generally, roo shooters will come in and they'll knock off 20 in a night. Yeah. And, like, there was more than one population that was 20 or 30, and that they were on two properties, and you could theoretically see all 30 of them, all 20 of them in a night. Yeah, wow. But the roo shooters didn't, and they managed to live. And now they're everywhere. I tell people, people are like, oh yeah, no, oh, you're hunting this spot, like, you know, how do I get access around there? And I'm like, where are you? And they go, oh, where I'm in X. And I go, okay, there's deer 10 minutes from you, like, legitimately 10 minutes from you. Like, I have hunted 10 minutes from you, and I've seen deer 10 minutes from you. And they go, what? And you go, yeah, they're everywhere. You'd be shocked. And so the populations obviously range quite a lot. Like, some places there's heaps, some places they're still just seeing a couple. But man, they're excluding, like, the pastoral mining areas, that they're almost everywhere now. Yeah, like, it just varies in population. But, like, I travel a lot in the country for work, and I see different people, and I chat to a lot of farmers, like, yeah, we saw a deer last year. It was so weird. And then, you know, you go 2 farms down there. Yeah, we see him every couple of weeks. And then you go 5 farms down, and you go, how you doing? They go, yeah, the fucking things are everywhere. yeah, okay. Yeah. So it just depends on where you knock. And it hasn't, because we're behind the eastern states, I like to say to people, like, we've got limiting factors like 1080 bush and that sort of stuff, and that's kept the numbers low for a long time. we haven't kind of had the media attention and a lot of the attention that the eastern states have, and it will get there, and people will start to pick onto the idea that they're everywhere, but it hasn't really, like, people have been pretty quiet about it, and because we don't have any public land as well, like, that's also kept it quite quiet. Like, people are very protective of their hunting spots over here, so understandably, so like it's kept the numbers quiet, but they are growing, and they're growing pretty quickly.
Yeah, South Australia is pretty similar in that aspect. The last 15 years has slowly been blown up. No public land, private property. So, where people were chasing deer, they'd just be chasing them, and they'd be like, give you a general area. And now it's just, there's deer, 5 minutes from the city almost here. Yeah. So it's just... Well,
I can. There's deer very close to Perth CBD. Yeah. Like, people don't realise that. Like, they are everywhere, and they vary hugely in numbers, but they're still there. The only thing that's stopping people getting access to them is just legwork.
Yeah. It's the same here, and now we're starting to deal with the helicopter culling and stuff like that, which is just, devastating the numbers, unfortunately. And their goal is total eradication in South Australia. So I think they've predicted it's like 80,000 deer in South Australia, and they want total eradication. And heard along the pipelines that, they're going to start looking at pesticides for them. So not just the helicopter culling, which will be, unfortunate.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the rumors circulate here every year that they are going to helicopter cull deer and this and that, and it's like, okay. I know that, for example, the Roosa, that was floated a few years ago, and the rumors were that basically they realized how much they'd spread, and they went, it's just a waste of our time in that country. And then a lot of the places where there are deer, like some of the places you'd run a helicopter and you will smash them, but a lot of the country, like, just, it's so many small holdings, or so many, like, you can run a helicopter over 100 acres and it jumps the fence the next 100 acres, and you don't have the rights here in WA to helicopter cull on those properties.
Yeah, it's the same here.
So they wouldn't succeed, basically. Like, you'll chase them off a couple properties and you'll burn through 100 grand.
Yeah.
So that, like, some of the larger properties that they're on, like, sure, you could smash them hard, but they're just, you'd have to run a heli over the whole of the state, basically, to try and actually get rid of them.
Yeah, it's the same thing here. I don't think without using, poisons and stuff like that it won't actually work on the helicopter side. It's just like wasting taxpayers' money, which is, what I'm telling people. We've got all these homeless issues here in South Australia, and, they could at least ground shoot them, recover them, take them to a butcher, and then feed the homeless population with this, insane organic meat. Well, free range. I don't like to use organic, but...
Yeah, well, it's not.
Yeah, exactly.
It's most of the deer aren't organic. Like some of the places are, but like, it's just 90% of it's not. But like, I always look to roos. Like, I always say to people, how do I get access? Like, all right, you go. So in WA, if you're in an open shire, touch wood, currently this is the rules. If you're an open shire for kangaroos, you can find a map online. You can shoot kangaroos. You cannot remove them from the property, but you don't need a tag, or you don't need anything. I always thought this was the dumbest logic ever. So you're telling me you can walk on a property, you can shoot them, but you can't remove them from the property. It's like, all that meat could be then you could take that to a butcher shop, and that could be donated to people, and that could really help a lot of people. And there is, like, I shot almost 30 roos this year off my 40 acres.
Yeah.
And the last year was more. My neighbor shot a lot more than that. And on top of that, roo shooters shoot all of my neighbor's blocks as well. So, like, a lot of meat's being shot and just left there because of what? Like, just some silly politicians and stuff.
Laws here are the same, with our tagging system. It's like the easiest tag to get is to shoot them and leave them. Then, like, the second harder tag to get is to use the meat on that property, and then the hardest tag to get is to take the meat off of the property, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. I've seen an article here for South Australia that they're talking about letting commercial roo shooters shoot like the fringe country between like the in the Adelaide Hills, so 15 minutes out of the not the CBD, but
Yeah.
the suburbs, and people are commenting like, leave the kangaroos alone. There's not many of them. We should be protecting them and not killing them because there's hardly any left in the hills. And I'm like, clearly you never leave your house, because there is, there's 100 kangaroos for every single deer in the hills, if that.
It's one of the things I tell people is like, like every farmer I meet, they're like, these bloody deer. And I'm like, okay, so everything says that a deer is equivalent to one roo and how much feed it eats. And I'll look out in your paddock and I'll see 3 deer, and right next to it is 70 fucking roos.
Yeah.
Like, and so like, it's one of the things I say is that if you go shoot those roos, the farmers are suddenly really okay with having around 4 deer. If you want to protect your little deer herd that you might have somewhere in WA, like actually help the farmers out and do that. It's horrible work. Like, I don't enjoy it as well, because you don't take the meat. Like, you can get personal use roo tags in WA, but they're a nightmare to actually try and get. And they make them very difficult. Where so I said it was like, actually help the farmer out with that. And they'll be much more relaxed. And also it proves that you're not just an idiot to them. Like, you're actually helping out. You shoot all those roos, you actually take them away from the paddocks where they're not going to see them. A bit of bushland where they can hide it in their property and stuff. And usually a farmer's got a dumping ground. Put them there, they'll be happy. Like, they'll suddenly have a lot more feed. They're a lot more chill about having a couple deer running around.
That's it, and the roos seem to do more of damage to the fences than the deer do. The deer seem to either push through them without causing too much damage, or just bouncing over them, where the roos are just absolute chaos on the fences.
Well, I don't know about deer, but on my property, the roos keeps destroying my fencing that I keep putting up. Like, it's the most, like, I'm not good at fencing. I'll put my hand up. Like, everything to do with farming, like, I say to my wife, it's like, if you watch Clarkson's farm, it's like that, except being broke. So everything that he does, I fail at, except I've got no money to like recompensate and get an Amazon channel for. So like, I'm doing fencing, and it's not the greatest fencing, but it's tight and it's stuff. And then I'll come back in 2 days' time, and there'll be like a dead roo in it, and it's been bashed up, and I'm just like, that's $1,000 down the hill. Like, just it is depressing when you start like that sort of stuff, and you're just like, okay. My one neighbor's a bush block, and so he's never there. He's only there once or twice a year. He doesn't allow any shooting on it and stuff. So they go and bed in there. They smash through my fence, and then they go feed in my paddocks and stuff. So it's infuriating.
Oh, absolute pain in the ass. Speaking with you being in WA and firearms, how's the all this new firearm legislation going through in Western Australia?
Good to take a depressing turn to the conversation.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I had to go there.
What do I say? I'm going to lose guns.
Yep.
So I've got 9 firearms. And like, I've got an air gun I use it to shoot a couple rats and like a few things like that. It's useless. It's cheap. Like, it's the fact that if you shot me with it, I don't think it would break skin. But that's a firearm. So that's on my license. So like, that's going to go on. Because you're allowed 5 if you're a recreational hunter, 5 for target shooting. So you're allowed 10 total. You're allowed 5 if you're a primary producer, on top of your 5 for recreational hunting. And then there's all these weird, like, we're the only state that really gives a shit about property sizes.
Yeah.
Like the rest of the country seems to not really care what size the property is.
I think there's a couple. I think Queensland and maybe Victoria have property sizing for calibers, but
in Victoria you just get a public land permit, and then you riders go. I've actually got a friend in Queensland who had 25 acres, and because he had pigs, he was getting 308s and 300 Win Mags, like, and that was 25 acres. Whereas over here they're like, well, you have 25 acres, so you can have an air gun, and you go, yeah, but I've got roos on my paddock, and you have to use a 223. Well, get a professional roo shooter in. It's like, well, they're going to use the same gun, and they go, we don't care. It's like, okay, well.
Insane.
Oh, it's so infuriating. So like, I'm going to lose thousands of bucks because of these new rules with the guns that I've got. I'm going to put I've got an old side-by-side as well. That's a EJ Sarasquita, because I used to work at a gun shop for a couple of years in there. And it was a terrible decision ever, because I bought a bunch of stuff and don't think I made any money ever. But like, one of the guns I got was an old EJ Sarasquita. And so it's a side-by-side shotgun. It's from the 70s or 80s or maybe early 60s. And it was from a gun shop in Spain, and this factory was making these guns to copy English game guns at a fraction of the price.
Oh, wow.
So it's a cool bit of history. Like the factory doesn't exist anymore. It was a factory that was around for over 100 years. Really cool bit of history. Really cool little gun. The engraving's not amazing, but it's a cool bit of history. And I had that. And I used to use that for a bit of clays and a bit of hunting as well, because it's so much lighter than my over and under. Like that'll have to get moved onto a collector's permit. So I'm having to juggle a bunch of stuff. I'm going to lose probably one of my 270s. I'll keep my 300 Win Mag, and my 44 mag lever action will probably have to go. And like, it's just, there's no logic to it. No. There's absolutely no logic to any of it. And it just, like I could scream about it for hours on end. Like and then on top of that, they're going to say, they've put in there as well, is that they can tell, now the commissioner can say whether a property is suitable for hunting or shooting.
Yep.
And it's like, well, that's not his job. And then they can tell you how many people can shoot on it. And it's like, well, I've got 40 acres and I probably have 7 or 8 people throughout the year shoot on it, different people, like, mates and all that sort of stuff. So like, I know some of the other properties that I know, like 1,000, 2,000 acres, like, they've got 30 plus dudes that throughout the year will shoot on it. And it's like, so what, you're going to turn, you've got 1,000 acres, so you can have 6 people, or you can have what? And it's like, well, and then now as a landowner, I have to write myself permission to hunt on my own property. It's like, are you shitting me? Like what? Like, I'm mortgaged up to the hilt and working my ass off to pay for like the dream, and you're then saying, well, too bad.
Yeah,
like, it is such a headache. And like, they jump up and down and say, well, this is because you guys were buying property letters as a reason to get a license. And it's like, well, there was a few reasons that was happening. One, because you said that if you've got a target rifle, if it's licensed through a club, you can't take that hunting. It's like, well, that makes no sense. And then you said to all these farmers that don't have 1,000 acres or 2,000 acres that they can't get a 223, so they legally can't shoot kangaroos on their own property that might be a couple hundred acres. So they went and bought letters so that they could license their guns to use. And it was never meant to be a impediment, like, so to speak. It was just meant to be like a box check, like, oh, you actually have someone to use it.
Yeah.
Like, if they just said, if they turn around and said, if you can got a target rifle, or you get licensed through a club, you can go hunting with it. Or the property size requirements don't exist. If it's rural, we're happy. Like, if they just did that thing, the amount of property letters that were bought and that they jumped up and down and said this is the worst thing in the world would have gone almost to zero, because people wouldn't have needed it. Like, it just, like, my own property, I shoot a 223 on it regularly. It's 38 acres. I can shoot 400 meters into a massive backstop from my house, and I regularly shoot 200 meters for roos. Like, from my veranda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So frustrating. No, it's fine. Like, I've had Kate. Do you know who Kate Fentanyl is? I've had Kate on the podcast. I've had Jason Spencer from Hunt and Catch Cook. I'm good friends with a fella that runs Down Under Predator Calls. And it's just hearing all their different stories. Kate's back here in South Australia now because she wasn't allowed to get a firearms license over there because they found her too much of a threat, like, because she ran a political campaign against them.
Well, this is the thing, is that now that they can say your speech and your stuff is a reason to take away your guns. And I was like, fuck, what's floating around that I've said? Like, Jesus. Like, they'll probably look at me and be like, you swore on this podcast with Zach. And I'm like, oh, fuck me. All right. Yeah, okay. Like, is that a reason now?
Yeah.
And, so... you
said a bad thing about the government.
Yeah, fuck the government. Yeah. I'll say it now. I'll say it for the rest of my life. Jeez, like, it is an absolute headache. Like, I'm actually, and then you don't know what, and the fun part is like, they're saying all of this is enacted in March next year.
Yeah.
And they're saying they've got these rules, and then we're all like, okay, so we know kind of what's going to happen, but the actual nitty gritty of the regulations haven't been released yet. So we actually don't know if we fall within whatever they've decided or not. Like, I can't. Like, I turned to one of my mates who I go shoot donkeys with, and I said to him, I was like, will you be able to write me a letter? Like, I can't figure out, like, if you've got 500,000 acres, I actually don't know whether you'll be, like, once you sign a couple letters for your family who all have guns, like, as you do, and they all live on the station, like, will you have any left? Like, because they say you can't have any more written permissions. And like, then you've got to have permissions every time you hunt, plus written permissions. And it's like, the one farmer I messaged, can I come out this week or weekend? Like he literally said, he doesn't even really want to hear from me, but I do it anyway. He just replies every single time, toot toot. Like, does that count as like enough permission for like? Am I going to get in? Like,
Yeah.
I can't figure half this stuff out. And it's honestly scary because I don't know that. I don't know that it's going to change with any other government or it's going to get any more logical. And it's going to be it's just going to be a reason to prosecute. Basically, they're going to go, oh, we've found, you broke this one thing that doesn't make sense that no one can really understand, so we're going to take all your guns away. It's just
it's crazy. Like, I heard along the rumor mill that bunker footage that they released from Western Australia, when was that, 6 months, a year ago, a bit over, at the time when they recorded that a few years ago, all of that was legal. Everything he'd done was legal, but they'd changed the laws afterwards, and then they've held on to the footage to like fearmonger people, like just
welcome to WA. They used a 50 cal in their range shooting, and like the range officers, that military, everyone else said that this is not a suitable area to be doing this, and this is not safe. And they went, no, we'll do it anyway. And it's like, so you broke your own rules for your media stunt.
Yeah,
and you spent 20 odd grand on a rifle. Like, yeah. I get what I told people at the last election, like, don't vote for Labor. They're going to get in anyway. But if you allow a government to have massive control, there is no checks and balances. And sure as shit, there's no checks and balances.
Look, we're seeing the exact same thing here with Labor in South Australia. So December 1st, bow hunting in South Australia is banned.
I cry. Like, it just seems like every Labor government in the country is like Queensland's getting it now. Like, you guys got the bow hunting ban. I'm sure there'll be some rifle ban soon enough. Well,
they're talking about lead now in Victoria, banning all lead projectiles, which will just decimate the hunting side of things, even though that the studies have been done on it showing that it's not that bad.
It's not blood soluble.
Yeah.
So lead for people, like lead from a projectile, is not blood soluble to humans.
Yeah.
So all of the data from America has shown that all of the projectiles that are coming out of your rifle that you shoot into something, yes, it's not good for predator birds, but not really a massive issue if the birds aren't endangered or you're in an area with heavy tree cover, which is most of deer hunting. And so it's not blood soluble to people. Like, it is for an animal that has a gizzard, but not that many. That is a negligible impact.
And that's where it's sitting in the gizzard and just sitting there,
grinding up.
Exactly.
It gets ground up, and then it does become blood soluble. I can go eat a 270 pill and I'll be fine. Like, it's just going to poop it out, and it won't actually have dissolved into my blood. The fact that there was leaded gasoline in the cities is more contributing to people's high lead levels.
Yeah, it's nuts. Like, I was thinking about it the other day, and I'm just like, well, if you weigh up how much lead gets thrown out on, say, public land in Victoria through hunting, compared to the lead in the waterways from people fishing with sinkers, like, how?
A better question, like a better comment. Every time there's a bushfire, they pump these trucks full of these bushfire retardants that are full of forever chemicals, full of PFAS, full of shit, and then you go spray that everywhere. But let's have an honest conversation about that. You are literally poisoning that ground forever, whereas the lead is like non-existent. It's not an issue. Like, it's like you're picking at gnats when there's a freaking bear trying to eat you. Like, it sends me mental. Like I've literally said to the local fire is like, let my place burn. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, do not spray that stuff on my farm. Like, I'd rather my farm, everything burns to the ground, because then I can rebuild it. Like, you put that stuff on my paddock, like, I can't use it. Like, that's it. That's all over. And they're like, oh, what do you mean? It's like, actually, can we just, we're not jumping ahead and thinking about things. We pick the wrong things to have an issue about.
We do.
But it makes for good headlines, and I'm sure it gets them a few votes, and yeah.
Oh man, it's depressing, but it's something that we have to talk about. Like, the podcast that's going to air before this one airs, we're sitting here, we're probably about 6 weeks before this one airs, or 5 weeks. And the episode that I've done just before this is on the national park proposal that for Victoria, where they want to turn most of the Alpine region into national park from state forest, and it's like 155,000 hectares. And the conversation we're having about it is like, you know, as soon as it's national park, there's going to be really no bushfire mitigation, and it's going to, you know, cause huge bushfires, and it's just going to be, you know, untold chaos. Like it's
well, it's like we're in a state that does, you know, prescribe burning a lot more than other states, and then people can be like, oh, but you prescribe burning's not great, not this, and it's like, okay, one of my neighbors has been working as a prescribed burner and a fire mitigation person for the last 40 years. And he'll tell you, like, you go to a place and you go, oh yeah, you burn it at the right time. It's nice and cool. Nothing really dies. It just cleans out the undergrowth. You don't do that. It comes in hot in the middle of summer, everything's dead. Yeah. And you can see that. You can see places around me now that they were burnt in the middle of summer because there was a bushfire that got out and they hadn't been prescribed burns in 20 plus years. It's all dead. It all died. Like, you've just got crappy monocrop scrub coming back. And a lot of it's weed, and that's because that's the only thing that comes back at that point. And now that suffocates any of the actual proper tree growth. All the big trees are dead. Yeah, like I'm sure it makes some greenie feel good somewhere.
Yeah, they're in South Australia. Their argument is, you know, like, we need all the hollow trees and all the ground timber for the animals to breed. You know, bandicoots and possums and whatnot. And without these, you know, dead trees, we're not going to have these animals, so we can't burn any of it. It's the same as
it's
like
still there.
firewood collection. Like, you can't go collect firewood in majority of South Australia now because, you know, you can't cut into a hollow log because it's habitat for, you know, it could be habitat for anything.
Oh man, like, it's just, if you go through a prescribed burn area, like none of this deadfall actually burns away. Like, most of it's still there. Like, yeah, you get a lot of the thinner stuff that's not going to be suitable habitat anyway. But anything that's over kind of 600 to 900 mil is still there. Like,
that's it. If you do it regularly and you're burning all the fuel, of course, it's only going to quickly flash through, and a lot of that larger stuff's going to be fine. But it's just absolute chaos. So look at who you're voting for in the elections. You know, we've had a few representatives of the Shooters Fishers Farmers Party on here. You know, I've spoken to the Shooters Fishers Farmers Party in Western Australia, and you know, there's all these different organisations that we really need to look at. You know, we have the numbers to make these changes, but
and you know, like, everyone says, oh, we got to get behind one party, and I'm like, yeah, I agree, but just don't be lazy. Vote below the line and number all your preferences, and then it doesn't actually matter. Like, if you put Shooters and Fishers first, or you put the Libertarian Party, or you put whatever the other minor party is that supports hunting and fishing first, and you do that, like, you know, One Nation or whatever it is, and you do that, well, your preference actually goes to them anyway. But if you just tick one above the box, then then you're throwing away your vote almost. But like, I like minority governments because they can't get much done. Like, it just, your government's never efficient anyway. So whenever you get a bunch of politicians that, you know, in majority, you're generally not going to like what they do.
Yeah, I've always hated politics and politicians, and I've been avoiding it for many years. And it's as I've said on this podcast a lot of times, it's just getting thrown in my face now for avoiding it. And now I'm chatting to politicians. I'm, you know, helping with letter campaigns and trying to get people to write letters. And it's just like, it's crazy to see how lazy the hunting and fishing and shooting communities are. Like, we're so fucking bad. So like,
we're busy having fun.
We've got a campaign at the moment for this bow hunting thing. It's done by SHASA here in South Australia, the Australian Bow Hunting Association, and a bunch of them. It looks like they've started a committee, Australian Outdoor Alliance or something along those lines, and they've done another petition against this bow hunting ban in South Australia. And you know, I think last time we looked, it was like 2,600 or 2,700 people had signed it. And these groups have 15,000, 20,000 people in it. Hunting Australia's got 100 and something thousand in it. If every single person took the 2 minutes it takes to sign it, write a comment, and share it, like, think of the shit we could get done. And it's just so frustrating that we're so, like, I'm probably going to piss people off, but we're fucking stupid. We
Oh,
have the
yeah.
numbers, but we just don't do anything. We've got this older mentality, like we're better off not being seen or heard, so lay low because otherwise we're going to lose everything. And it's like, no, we're losing everything now. We need to speak up.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I always say to people, like, the reason like we are losing what we are doing is because someone else is painting the picture of what we're doing. And it's like, this is one of the things, if you need to be practicing, as Stephen Allen said, meat diplomacy
Yep.
all the time. Like, people come here, they only eat wild meat. Like, it is what it is. Like, you're in this house, you eat wild meat. When I was in university, we'd go shoot a wild pig or we'd shoot something like that. And we would have a party with like 40 or 50 people where we're doing a whole wild pig. Like, that we'd do these marinades, we'd have these big parties all around wild meat. Like, and it's just university party, it's an excuse to get absolutely pissed, but like you'd also be eating a whole bunch of meat. And like, I didn't do sides. There'd be some bread rolls that no one used, and there was just a crap load of meat, and people smashed it. None of those people are now going to be like, oh, actually, hunters are these weird, mean people. They're going to look at you and go, oh, like, okay, you're actually a logical human being and you're just doing what you love. And if you have that, if you take away your adversarial nature that I think a lot of us has, and just try and be pro and just, like, as I said to people, it's like, we all love having a barbecue on Saturday or Sunday and a nice day. Like, invite a bunch of people over and make sure you're serving wild meat.
That's it.
Like, make your snags, make your everything, like, and do that. Go, okay, 3 times a year, I'm going to invite as many people as I can over. I'm going to cook up a massive wild, like, food spread. Make sure it's all good food. Like, make sure you put the effort in, that it's good quality.
That's it.
Like, you do your trials and everything. You'll convert a bunch of people that when these politicians stand up and say, these hunters are XYZ, they're not safe, they're this, they're that, they're going to go, well, that's not my experience. I don't know anyone like that. You've just changed a lot of people's mind, and their now first thought when a politician says that stuff is like, yeah, you're probably lying. Like, we don't trust politicians as it is. Like,
Yep.
So when they say something and they've met you and you've done the right thing and you've had an open, honest conversation, and you don't even have to push what your message. You just have to cook them some wild meat. Like, that is the message right there in the food. They eat it. You don't have to say anything else to them. And if they ask, you can have a conversation then, and they go, oh, that's really cool. You go get your food. Why do you do that? It's like, oh, well, I love being out in nature, and I like the fact that I get to bring some meat home. I get to put that in my freezer. It connects me to my food. I think it's quite spiritual. I think it's like what we're supposed to be doing. And you can have that conversation with them, and they jump on your side. They're excited for you. They're excited by the idea. They might say, well, I could never do that, but I'm so excited you do it. Like, this is delicious. Thank you so much. Like, that little bit of diplomacy. Like, and we've all got 3 or 4 weekends a year that we can do that. You don't have to take someone out to your good hunting spot. You don't have to take them out to shoot something. That's just sharing a meal. Like,
yeah,
we've all got people we can share a meal with who don't hunt and shoot. Like,
oh, and on top of that, take someone out shooting for the first time when you can. South Australia, we have a pretty good law. We can take unlicensed people out shooting as long as they're in eyesight of us using the firearms.
Yeah, we can't even do that.
Yeah, it's WA. I'm sorry, but that was just assumed.
Yeah. But you can take someone out and they can watch you shoot, and you can take them for the experience.
Yep.
And I'm not going to make any comments. And so you can take that and they can see what you're doing, and you can go to an approved range
Yep.
with them, and go to, range days are awesome. You go shoot a box of clays. Like, holy shit, that's fun. Like, it's just good fun. Like, you take any of your mates to go do that. Everyone's having a great time. Like, what does it cost you? Like, slab of clays, everyone pitches in, pays for their own clays and ammo, and everyone's having a great time.
Yeah, 100%, man. Like, it's, we're like with work, I take, I'll run out of room in the freezer. I'll bring, a couple grocery bags full of venison, whether it's shanks, steaks, roasts, dice, mince, whatever. And I just leave it in the work fridge, tell everyone to take as much as they want home, as long as they show me photos of what they're cooking, or telling me what they cook with it, and chat about it so they can all try it, and they take it home to their families. They got wives, they got kids, their parents. So all of these people are trying all this wild game. Oh, where'd you get it from? A guy from work. But, as you were saying with like the politicians saying, hunters are this, hunters are that, so they might vote against them. It's a hard one because people have, their own things that they're picking in, like when they're picking a politician, it's not going to be like, oh, this person's against hunting. It's all about their pocket and what's going to suit them.
Yeah.
So if they're against hunting, the politician's against hunting, and they're like, oh, look, that I'm not a hunter, so it's not going to affect me if I vote this in.
Yeah.
And it's such a
But it'll change some minds, and no one can argue that their pocket is better off in the last 8 years that it is now. So I always think is like, I always say to people, like, now if you get them on your side a little bit, when it does turn up to the time where you get to, like, you've had these firearm laws and you need to get people on board to, like, actually say, okay guys, can you just contact your member and say that you know someone who does this? You can kind of give them a few bullet points. They can jump on, they'll actually be a bit more willing to put the little bit of effort in. And like,
that's it.
I've gotten a bunch of people out hunting and fishing and even spear diving, spear fishing and stuff, and I've gotten them into those outdoor stuff, and now they're all like pro these things they were contacting. And it's not hard to get people involved. People are generally starved to get out and do something in nature, like, is my experience.
100%. I took a fella from work out not long ago for his first time and shooting. Like, he absolutely loved it. Within a couple of weeks, he's applied for his license. Then he's come back out with me. He's shot his first hare, and I cooked a bunch of wild game up over the fire, and they absolutely loved it. And he's like, "This is what I'm doing from now on. Like, this is what I'm doing." All he thinks about now is hunting. Like, he's constantly looking at firearms. He's like, oh, what do you think about this caliber? And he's learning about all the different calibers, all the different brands, what's good for what. All he's consuming is hunting media now. So it's wicked to see.
Yeah, and it's awesome seeing that. I find it like taking someone out who hasn't, shot a deer or shot something, and they get that first opportunity. It like kind of brings a little bit of spark back to my hunting as well. Because like I can be
100%.
very I'm very casual now, because I've gone through the stages of slogging it for years to finally getting something. And now if I go out, I feel like I can generally shoot a deer if I'm going to actually put the effort in to pull the trigger. So I'm very just relaxed about it. For fallow, at least. For reds and other stuff, not so much.
Same
but yeah. So like, and getting to see that spark is just awesome. It brings me so much like joy,
Yeah, it's great to see, because I've been hunting since I was, as long as I can remember. 5, 6, maybe even younger, going out with my pop. Rabbits, hares, foxes, goats, and then you just kind of, it becomes so natural to you. And then I started bow hunting in my late teens, and you get past all that and you get pretty successful with that. So you just, until you start taking other people out and then seeing them, like you get more joy seeing them get something for the first time than you do, shooting it yourself. If you're like, oh, just move over, let me shoot it. Or you let them take it, and just the joy. And, it's not always happy emotions people get at first, people get, teary and emotional, because it is a different thing, especially for someone that's never done it before, and they're entering it, whether it's late teens or, early 30s or 40s. And, I've taken all age groups out, and it's awesome to see, like, the raw emotion. So it's
100%. It's like it's a really cool thing to see, and it's just I think we're all meant to be doing it. Like, I subscribe to the idea that kind of sports and everything else is a distraction from hunting. Like, it's just it was all made to not, like, like we couldn't go do hunting or something, so we had some other release. And like, I have no interest in any sport, anything that, if it's not hunting or spearfishing or doing anything like that, I'm like, like, my wife's watching the Olympics right now, and I'm like, She's like, oh, this is amazing. And I'm like, zero interest. Like,
I'm 100% the same. Like, my parents growing up tried to get me into soccer. They tried to get me into football, tennis, absolutely everything. And it's like, no, I just want to hunt and fish, Like, they took me to go try football, and I'm there catching bugs in the grass. Like, I'm sitting down in the grass pulling millipedes and beetles out of the grass, rather than like any focus on the ball. They tried to get me to do scouts, and it's like, oh, the idea of it's cool, but I've already gone out hunting, camping, shooting slingshots, bows, rifles. It's like,
this is the light version.
Why am I going to sit in a drafty building with a man talking about doing this stuff when I can just go out with my grandparents and actually go do this stuff?
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, yeah, my parents are the same. They tried to get me into all those sorts of sports and stuff, and like, I do like one season of it, and like, yeah, cool, done. Like, I don't do that. They're like, no, you better keep doing it. I'm like, I don't want to do soccer anymore. Like, I did it for 6 months. Do I have to do like another year of it? It's terrible. Like, I don't want to kick a ball. Like, this is boring. I didn't know what, and that was one of the things like I always had. It's like I didn't know what I wanted. Like, I knew I loved fishing. I always wanted to go fishing more, but as a kid, you don't have the access unless you live on the water or something, and we didn't. So it was very much as soon as I could, I was like, something's clicked. See you later. I'm doing this.
Yeah, I was constantly like, if I had the freedom to ride my push bike, I'd go find a body of water. I'd ride with a bucket, a tackle box, a fishing rod over the handlebars, and some water and some food, and I'd be out all day hitting every single dam and creek that I could find in the area.
That's awesome.
As a kid, you don't care about property boundaries. You don't. When you're that age, you don't. You just hit every single waterway you can.
Of it,
Yes. And a lot of farmers in the area didn't care. You're not like defacing their property. You jump on the fence, catching a couple fish. Unless they're stocking it with good fish like trout and stuff, they just did not care. Like, they'd come over and chat to you, and they'd say, come say hello next time you're passing through. And being in a small country town, everyone knows who you are anyway. So that was cool, and we're kind of losing that, which is a damn shame.
It's like like, even so, we've moved to the country, like we're around us there's a very old heritage of community and all that sort of stuff, and over the last years it's kind of fragmented and faded as people have moved away and sold farms and all that sort of stuff. And we actually did a sundowner, invited all the local farmers, and we invited them all over for drinks and food, and I cooked up some venison and stuff and had them all over, and we did that. Wicked. And everyone was like, "Oh, thank you so much for doing this. This is awesome." Like, we hadn't met these people, and like some of these people, like their family's been here for over 100 years, and so they're so excited because like, "Oh, we haven't met these people. We haven't seen these people since we were 6 years old," and all that sort of stuff. So that was really, really cool to kind of get all of that back, like, and see all of that connection, and kind of just try and build that community up a little bit and get involved in it. And one thing I was wondering is, like, a legacy hunter, so to speak, with you growing up hunting, did you get to skip all of the depressing bullshit of door knocking and all of that sort of stuff, and you just get a few properties from your pop? No.
So my pop did a lot of pay-to-play properties when I was younger for goats and stuff like that. So he'd go pay for the weekend, and we would hire out a shearer's quarters to go chase goats and stuff like that. So he never had, while I was growing up, he never had any properties that we could just go to. It was always pay-to-play. So, I moved up from the suburbs to the hills in my early teens. So, my mum and my stepdad, they were in the CFS. So I joined the country firefighting service for, those interstaters. All of those country fire services have different names in every state. So doing that, you're chatting to all the different farmers and you're getting to know everyone. So when you start learning where these animals are, you're like, "Oh, you live out here. Can I come out there?" And, they're like, "Oh, you can come. I've never seen a deer, but you can come chase rabbits." And then you're like, "Oh, I'm seeing deer out there," and just stuff like that. So I've got a couple of smaller properties like that through that. And, kids that I've gone to school with, their parents own property, and they're like, "Oh, you like hunting? You can come out," So just like that. And I've done lots of door knocking and letter drops, and, every person I speak to, I, find a way to bring up hunting somehow. And, they're like, "Oh, my uncle's got a farm." That's like, "All right, whereabouts is your uncle's farm?" "Oh, yeah, cool. Can you hook us up, and can you introduce me, give me a number?"
Yeah. I'm the same. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, so that property that's 4,000 acres covered in red deer and pigs, would you happen to need someone to come and sort that out, and I'll fill your freezer?"
Yeah, 100%. And same, doing a delivery driving job. You're constantly all over the place. So it's just constantly speaking to people. And then all my customers know that I'm the hunting guy now. And they're like, "Oh, I've just been speaking to this person. They have an issue with deer." And so you just slowly get leads like that, which is pretty good.
No, that's good. I found, like, I chatted to a lot of people, like, "How do I get access to go hunt deer?" And I'd be like, don't focus on deer. Like, that's how you get access to like you go and like, I love rabbit shooting as well. Like,
so
you go just shoot rabbit and roos. Like, if you are happy to go shoot rabbit, roos, and foxes and just work on that, most farmers are like, oh, you're just shooting rabbits and roos, cool. Like, I happy jump on.
Yeah.
You can, this is how big my property is. Go for it. And then you go, oh, like I saw that there was some pig diggings. Can I like, is that right? And they go, oh yeah, please shoot those. Or you just say that, and they're like, if you walk into properties and you say, I want to chase pigs or chase deer, that like I find a lot more people like, they just get they're a little bit more standoffish because they've had every Tom, Dick, and Harry do that. You start with the things that people usually leave behind, and you pick the scraps up, and you're certainly having the best meal.
Yeah, see, rabbit properties here are the hardest to get at the moment because the numbers are so low. Like my main property is just over 1,000 acres. The last 3 years, I've maybe seen 2 rabbits on the property, and it used to be like our go-to property for rabbits. And it's such a shame because I love Kentucky Fried Rabbit or slow cooked rabbit in the slow cooker, and not being able to have that. Just like I took the guy from work and an old schoolmate and one of his mates out the other night, and we shot 9 hares. They had a few shots at foxes, but not a single rabbit. I'm just like, this sucks. Like, spotlighting is supposed to be like shooting rabbits every 5 minutes. You're shooting rabbits, or you're swinging the lights like, there's a rabbit, bang, there's a rabbit, bang. It's like, I almost want them in, like, I know for conservation reasons it's not good, but I want them like plague proportions. So
I'm with you. Like my best, like I've never had access to amazing rabbits over here. Like my best day ever, I got 13. But like last year, I saw a rabbit on the farm, and I was like, oh my God. I ran back to the house. I grabbed the 22 and I went and shot it. Wife came over. I was like, babe, I got a rabbit. And she's like, why are you so excited? I was like, this is awesome. I shot a rabbit on my own farm. Like, this is amazing. So we ate all, like, it is one of my favorite meats as well. Like, it's just awesome. But we don't get that many of them. Like, it just, when we do, I get a few, but like, I'm always desperate for more rabbit properties and shooting more rabbits because they're just like, you get to pull the trigger a bunch. And I say there's like, go chase rabbits. Like if you can find like a bunch of rabbits, you shoot. If you go chase pigs, you shoot a pig or 2 pigs. Like you go shoot rabbits, you'll shoot 10 rabbits. Yeah. And so you get a lot more trigger time. You get a lot more practice stalking, moving, shooting rifles, all that sort of stuff. It's great. Like, and especially foxes as well. If people go chase foxes, like that's a great way to get access to properties. But I'm gonna eat one day, but I haven't been game yet.
Yeah, nah, I'll leave you with that one. I'll eat most things, but I'm not going after a fox. I just don't see the appeal there.
I never trust people's opinions on stuff. Like it's just like it's good and it's bad. It means I eat some really horrible things. But I've just heard too many times from people like, oh, you can't eat wild pigs, and then like, I lived on it for 6 months. Like, what do you want about? Or you can't eat this fish, or you can't eat that. And I'm like, yeah, well, you can't if you treat the fish like crap. Like, or you can't if you treat the meat like crap. Like I find so much of those sentiments like this is crap or that is crap or you can't eat this is like, it's like, yes, you are used to a fish or a meat that if you treat it terribly, it is okay. Yeah. But if you treat your meat well and you look after your stuff, most of it's pretty good. Like if you're not an idiot and you're not just brutal on your food, like, and you actually put a little bit of effort in, it's pretty good. The fox I don't know. We'll see how we go. Like every time I've skinned a few, and every time I skin it, I'm like, it still stinks. Like that's my issue. Like the meat still stinks. So yeah, one day.
I know Dodge, another podcaster, he's eaten one. So, but not my type of thing. I've seen a couple of catch and cooks on YouTube of some Aussie kids doing it, and it's just not my thing. But like I said before we started the podcast, I'm heading up to New South Wales next weekend, so by the time this is out I've already been there, and my goal is to shoot and eat some wild pig while over there.
It's awesome. Like you've got to be like I had one property that I must have shot like 100 pigs in 2 years from, and 99% of them were really, really good. I had one pig in all of that time that was inedible. Yeah. I can't figure out why, because it wasn't huge. It wasn't like a mass. Like my biggest pig I shot would have been over 100 kilos. We had no scales, but like I couldn't move it, so that was my gauge. I thought it was a calf in the early morning light. But yeah, so like that was my biggest pig compared to my smallest pig that I shot. That I de-haired it and had the whole thing roast suckling. So like I had a full range of pig sizes and different pigs, but only one pig that I ate that. And I was like, man, I feel like I'm eating your piss. And I just like, I physically, you cooked it and it was like, that is just like, you could smell it. That was the only one pig out of 100 plus that I've eaten. But it just generally, if you know, what I found is if like everything, you gut it like and bleed it really quickly. And like, this is one of the things I've gotten really, really particular at is like, and I said to him, I was like, yeah, I get we want to take photos, but like 10 minutes from it now being shot, like I want that thing like gut and bled, and I want it like cooling down as quickly as possible. I want it like, so pretty much every time we shoot something now, I'll usually slit its throat immediately after photos and kind of have it so that the weight is pulling the blood out, like, so, you know, up a slight angle of a hill or something like that, and try and pump that blood out. And there's a lot of things I've seen from watching European guys, because they're much more particular about that sort of stuff, because they're obviously that like they will lose money if the meat quality isn't good. And it's just interesting. Like, I'm trying to learn more of that and just trying to improve it as much as possible. And I've really noticed that improvement, even like from what I was particularly anal the last few years, just adding extra steps in and just really being clean with it. You get a much better product. And like you shoot a pig over there and you don't get the outside meat on the inside, like the outside hair on the inside or any of that kind of stuff, and you're careful with it, man, it's awesome. Like, we literally lived off wild pork for 6+ months because it was all I was shooting.
Yeah, wicked. Yeah, I've shot a big barren sow in New Zealand, and the farmer ate her, and she was like they said, it was amazing. I shot a few pigs in Mexico, and we cut the back straps out of them and the tenderloins out of them, and that was wicked. You know, cooking it on open flames with mesquite wood. Like, all the wood we were cooking on was mesquite, so you had that wicked flavor from the mesquite. And, you know, we had, you know, eating it on tortillas with Mexican spices, and, you know, the mayonnaise had lime in it, and like, it just wicked flavors that just complemented everything. So it was wicked. But yeah, so I don't think Cody's tried eating many pigs off of his block, but yeah, that's one thing that I'll be taking the back straps out of, you know. Any big sow any sow that I shoot, or young. Yeah, I can
see it as well if they're carrion eating, if they're eating a lot of like dead roos and dead stuff, but if the feed's good, like, I wouldn't be stressing about it at all. Like unless they're, you know, it's particularly dry and there hasn't been any feed on the ground, like, I could understand why that could be a bit rough. But I wouldn't stop me trying.
I'm definitely going to try. So, you know, I'll either get sick and this podcast won't be anymore, you know. This might be the last one released.
You just do a cheeky yak.
But we'll jump back into some of the questions.
Yep.
What would be your top beginner tip for someone getting into hunting?
Enjoy failing.
Yep.
Just accept that. Like, just stop like thinking that you're going to go get something. Stop gauging your success by Instagram or Facebook or anything.
Yep.
Because that's not reality at all. Like, it's just not. And especially if you don't have a mentor or a tutor or anything like that, just be prepared to fail and really go into that. Like, lean into the failing. Like that is one of my strong suits, I think, is that I was really fine with failing, and like, I learned by like, failure was just everything I did because I did it wrong. Like, I tell it was like, like, I do things because the other way I did it was wrong and didn't work. And so like, that is like, and just aim small as well. Like, as I said, we're talking about rabbits. Like, just be happy to go chase rabbits, man. Like, if you go chase, generally you can get rabbit properties closer to where you live, like, as a general rule, or like whatever. So be happy to fail, and be happy just with the small things. Be happy just going out and, like, for a walk. Like, really embrace that armed bushwalk mentality and the not winning mentality, and that will bring you so much better luck, I think, because if your first 6 months to a year are going to be the biggest learning curve you're going to have, like, as a new hunter, and if you can really cross that threshold, you'll do way better. Like, you just stick with it. Like, if you're not prepared to fail, you're just not going to stick with it. And the more you're prepared to fail, the more you're prepared to do things wrong, the better you'll do in the long term.
Yeah, man, 100%. I agree with you there. I speak to people all the time. They're like, you know, I've been trying to bow hunt or hunt for, you know, 3 years, and all I've shot is a rabbit, or all I've shot is a fox, or all I've shot is a goat. You know, like, I'm getting sick of not being able to get properties. Like, I'm gonna give up. You know, this isn't for me because I can't. I'm not getting the success and that, you know, that gratitude from the success. You know, like, that just. It's not like soccer or football where you can get a goal every game, you know. It's just constant getting out there and trying.
You've got to measure your success in different ways with like especially those early days. I think like if I had measured my success on hunting access or hunting in those first days, like it would be the dumbest thing anyone's ever done. Like I went door knocking every single weekend as an apprentice. Like I would save all week to have my money to fill my car to go door knock, and I'd spend the whole day door knocking, and then I'd come home and I'd be like, I got a 1 maybe. He said to call him next week, and I'd call him next week and be like, no, I chatted to my brother. No, I'm like, fuck, okay, and I'd try the following week, and like I would just do that over and over and over again until someone gave me a chance. And then I hunted there for years, and like I shot foxes and rabbits, and then eventually there was pigs there, and there hadn't been pigs there before, and just like the prepare to fail and like lean into that aspect of things. It'll make you a tougher person, and you'll eventually be a better hunter for it. Because you just like at the end of it, you go, oh, okay, well I didn't get anything. I'm used to that. Like, that's fine.
You definitely learn rejection really, really well.
Oh yeah, you lean into it. You're like, okay, but by the end of it, you're like, oh, I understand rejection. Like, it's more shocking when you get something. You're like, oh shit, like I got something. And it hypes the success up more, I think, as well. Like
you're going in expecting a no, and they're like, not a problem. Like, do you want to go have a look now? It's like, hang on, wait, what?
Yeah, I haven't got a gun with me. I've got nothing with me. I'll come back next weekend.
Yeah, it's one of those things you don't want to be dressed in camo. But then saying that again, some of the times I've been successful with door knocking, it's been a spare of the moment coming back from a hunting trip or bow fishing, and I've seen deer out in a farmer's front yard, and I've pulled up and I've gone, knocked on the door, and it's like, oh, I know this person through, CFS or something like that. I've gone up in camo, like, the stuff that they tell you not to do, and they're like, oh yeah, not a problem. Like, come back next week, or, just go chat with my neighbor, like one of the properties. They're just like, oh yeah, we're not, our neighbor has a deer fence. We're not sure if they're escapees or not. Like, go chat to him first. And if he says that they're not his and it's fine, then you can, and that's been one of my properties for years now. Like it's funny how that stuff works.
Yeah, I would literally shine my like 4-wheel drive every Friday before I went door knocking on Saturday. Like, make sure it was spotless. I would clean it. I'd be all pretty, and then I would wear like a button-up shirt and like clean jeans and all that sort of stuff. And then like I came back hunting one day, and like I pretty much never wear camo, to be honest. Just because like I work outside a lot, especially during truffle season, so I want bland colors so that it doesn't look weird walking through a paddock. Like the farmers will give you a lot of shit if you wear camo, like truffle dogging. And so like all my gear I tend to buy like mute colors and stuff. And so like that works out well. But like I got a great pig property that way, like 1 year, and just lean into that. But like be happy to fail. I think it's a good way to do it.
That's it. What would be the most important item you take out hunting with you? Like, not your bow, not your rifle. What would be the most important gear apart from that?
Ooh, knife or an esky, probably.
Yep.
Yeah, like if you're going out to bring meat home, like if you're doing spotlighting, like you can kind of get away depending on what you're doing. If you're going home that night, like we used to go 2 hours to a place to spotlight, and then we'd drive home that night. And so you didn't really need an esky because it was freaking freezing. And so you'd gut your rabbits, or you'd have your rabbits on the back of the tray, and it would be pretty cool. Like you'd freezing your nuts off standing on the back of the tray, so they were pretty cold. But generally a knife and an esky, because you want to protect that meat. Like that's always my thing is like if you've gone to the extent to get it, like you want to be able to save it.
Yeah, 100% agree with you there. What would be your top 5 dream animals? Like, money not being an issue anywhere in the world, what would you like to go chase?
I'd love to go back to New Zealand. I've been across chasing tahr. We did a kind of a semi-DOA guided thing with a mate, a guy I met over online who lives over there, and we chased tahr. But we shot a tahr on the first day up the mountain, and then I spent the next 7 days chasing chamois and didn't see one. And like I had the torture of getting back on the helicopter at the end of it. And the guy was like, yeah, there was a chamois up that gully yesterday when I was doing touristing. I was like, mate, I was up that gully yesterday. They sure as shit wasn't. He's like, it was standing right in the open. And I was like, no, it wasn't. Don't say that to me. So I've been tortured. I'd love to go back and do that.
It's wicked over there, isn't it? It's amazing.
Yeah, it's just awesome. And it's cool. It's amazing scenery. Like we had just the coolest trip over there.
Same.
And then like, I think I'd love to chase like black bear or something like that. But I think I'm touch wood, as this desk is. Next year, we're probably going to the UK.
Yeah, beautiful.
And I really want to do a driven pheasant hunt.
Yeah, cool.
I think that would be so much fun.
Yeah.
And I like love watching dogs work as well. Like so a lot of that, I'd love to go chase mountain lions with dogs or do any of that kind of stuff. Just like having work dogs, working my dogs and seeing other dogs work. Like I get so excited watching them work. Like so any of that kind of stuff I'd be really keen. But yeah, like chase black bears and do some bird shooting in the UK. I'd really love to shoot some of their smaller deer species. Now that I've shot a hoggy, like I'm like, oh yeah, I'd like to get some more small species there. They're really interesting.
They are.
And I don't know the next time I'll ever get a chance to chase hog deer again. So yeah, that would be pretty cool.
Well, touching on the hog deer, let's jump into that, because that's how I found out who you are. You know, you got fortunate enough to get a Snake Island tag. Drawn for it. Were you drawn as an emergency or? Yeah, you were. So let's jump into that. What happened?
I've been applying for my hog deer thing here on the table. I've been applying for like 9 years or something, like a really long time. And like every year I just throw it. I'm like, it's like, it's like buying a lotto ticket.
Yeah, exactly.
And every year nothing would happen. And I'd be like, yeah, okay, cool. I really just like, it almost became rote just doing it. And then last year I applied and I got an emergency for bull pull as number 13.
Yeah, beautiful.
And I was like, oh, I'm an emergency, but I'm number 13. Not going to hear anything. Didn't hear anything. No worries. And then this year I got drawn as emergency number 12 for Snake Island. And I was like, number 12, one ahead of my last year. I'm still not going to get drawn. And then 8 weeks before my period, I got a call being like, oh, we've just had someone pull out. Your number's up. Are you up? And I was like, oh, shit. We've just spent a crap load of money on the farm. Like, oh, can I call you back? Like, and let you know, like, I'm gonna have to chat with my partner about this because it's gonna cost a small fortune for me to get across and do everything. And I called my wife and I was like, I've just been drawn. I don't know if I'm gonna. She's like, what are you talking about? Of course you're fucking going. I was like, oh, okay. She's like, no, you have to go. You've been applying for so long. You can't not go. I was like, oh, okay, I'm going. And so that really started it because I was like, oh, like if it was just left up to me, I probably wouldn't have gone because I felt like I couldn't justify it. Like we've got a farm, we've bought a bunch of stuff. Like there's all the running costs of that. And I said, no, you're going. I was like, all right, cool, I'm going. So then at that point I was like, it's switched on. And then I just hit up everyone that was going, anything for any kind of information I could get. Like I hit you up asking questions. I hit up a bunch of other people. What's the island looking up? Like, what's the water level looking up? And people were like, you need a tree stand. You need this. And I was like, I can't get a tree stand on a plane. So that's not happening. Like, I'll sit on the ground. It's fine. I don't care. Like, it's just going to be over. It's pretty cool. I'll be excited for that. And then I chatted to and then I kind of got some information from the group of where everyone was going. I was like, people weren't really saying anything because I was late. They'd already kind of all talked about it. And I didn't really get much information. So I'd kind of picked out a few spots. And then I ended up chatting to Justin Lambert. I was like, oh, I know him through Mick and the Van Diemen's and stuff. And so I sent him a message being like, I sent him a message like, oh, like you're 2 weeks before me. Like, what are you doing? How are you preparing? He's like, oh, this, and this. And then when he was on the island, I was like, how's it going? What's it look like? Like I must have been like the annoying 2-year-old in a class, like just constantly asking
questions. We've all been
there. yeah. And like, no, he was awesome though. So he gave me lots of information. He sent me videos of the hoggies he was seeing. And then eventually he was like, go here, stay here. We've been seeing hoggies every night. And you'll have like, this will probably be your best spot. And it was easy to get to by boat. Like I didn't have to walk very far, which is great because everything had to be get on a plane. Like I didn't have options to buy stuff. And then organize my like flights over and stuff. And thankfully the business does the credit card. So like I used a whole bunch of points and all that sort of stuff. And so like the whole trip, the most expensive part of the whole trip was the bloody hire car, which sat at Port Welshel. Like, this is really annoying, but it's cost me $100 a day. And then got over there and I'd booked like a Hyundai Getz or something, like some small Corolla. I don't know. It was I don't really care what it is. Like it's like my stuff in it. And I got there and she's like, oh, do you want insurance? And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, oh, well, if you got no insurance, it's $5,000. If you get this insurance, it's $500, or you can get no excess. And I was like, how much is no excess? She's like, $53 a day. I was like, I'll hit the deer the minute I get out of the CBD. Yeah, let's go with that. She goes, oh, well, I'll give you a free upgrade. I was like, sweet. She gave me a free upgrade. So I was now in like a nice Toyota CHR or something, like much bigger sedan. I was like, this is great. And then, yeah, a page follower kind of gave me a lift over to the island, like did the whole briefing and everything, and jumped on the island, and that was interesting because I got on the island, I was like feeling great, like I set up on the beach, had my tent all like a little bivvy, then I had a fly tarp over it, I was feeling all comfortable, everything was like, I want to sit down and have coffee. Sat down, went to light my my beauty, like, fuck, I don't have a lighter. I was like, I don't have a fucking lighter. And I was on the phone with a mate because I researched. I was like, he was like hell excited for me. I was chatting. So I was like, I don't have a lighter. It's 2:00 in the afternoon. I want freaking coffee. I only had one this morning. I only have like 4 a day. And he's like, you gonna try start a thing with like a bottle? And I tried like everything to get this thing going. I was like, okay, it's just gonna be cold food. Like, is what it is. And I tell you, because I made my own dehydrated food as well, because I'll save some money. Like, wherever I can, I was going to save some money. So I was like, all right, so I've got curry and I had burrito mix. And I was like, so I was literally putting cold water in this mix and then like swirling it around. And I tell you, it does not rehydrate cold. Like, it was rough as guts. And then like the first, I'd taken some apples and some jerky as well. I made my own jerky, bought some jerky. And I'm like, apples and stuff, and so I ate that. I was like, oh, like I was really struggling to like keep it down, and I was like, I don't eat breakfast, so I only had lunches and dinners, and then every day lunch would come, and I'd be like, okay, all right. So I was putting it in the sun, like I was like filling this little canteen up and putting it in the sun to try and get like something lukewarm, semi-rehydrated food, and I was like,
yuck.
And yeah, it was rough, man. And like because I was like on the coastal areas as well. So I'd set up, I'd found where he was, and I just, like you said, all right, I'm uncomfortable. And we're all messaging each other, and no one was seeing anything. Like, it was just the quietest, like second last period. So no one was seeing anything.
What period was that again? Sorry?
It was like it's the second last period. So May 8th,
Okay,
end of May, something like yeah. So like
quite
near
late
the
into
end.
the season.
Yeah, and like all the other periods been quite successful. And we just weren't seeing anything. And I was like, this is depressing. Like, so heaps of sign. I was like, so there's heaps of sign going on. That's like really good news. Like, there must be lots of deer, and then you don't see anything. You're like, oh, this is not good. Like, okay. And then one guy on the other side, on what was the western side of the island, he was seeing a couple of hinds and a small spiker, but no one else was seeing anything. And I was like, this is like literally no one. Like, it was like, so day one on the Sunday, we got on the island. I was like, didn't see anything. Saw heaps of sign. Was really excited. A little bit depressed. Finding no fire. And because it kind of doubly hurt because there was a campfire spot right in front of my camp, like where someone had laid it, like as well. I was like, this is I'm gonna be toasty and warm, and like, you know, it's so warming to have a fire. Just like depressing to look at it every night, cold. And then the Monday, because we can't start hunting till 8 a.m. So I was standing at the edge of my camp because I could see where I was going to go hunting. I was just waiting, being like, all right. I was like, waiting. I was making sure I didn't have my binoculars or anything, like no pack on me or anything. I couldn't be construed as hunting. I was like really anal about everything. I was like just standing there, like standing over, looking at these flats and like, all right. And then as soon as 8 a.m. walked in, I walked into the spot and I was like, all right. And then we were all texting constantly. And no one was seeing it. It was really depressing. So Monday went, no one saw anything. One guy saw a fox. And then Tuesday came around and it was like same deal. And I at midday, I was just like, all right, it's going to be really shit all week. Like, just going to accept that is what it is. My heart sunk. Like, this is going to be crap. Like, it's going to be hard to be like, yeah, I've just spent all of this money, all this effort, taking a week off work, all this crap. But that's fine. And then, like, as you do, like, in the last 3 hours before it gets dark, you start making sure, like, yeah, because I was sitting in this little, like, bush, basically, like, just not moving for the entire day. Like, I'd roll over to unzip to pee, like, 30 centimeters from me and try to make sure I went downhill and not into my little divot to try and, like, I was minimizing everything. Like, I don't want to make any noise, don't make any scent. Like, the wind was good. I was like, I'm gonna give myself the best odds. And then it was like an hour before dark, hour and a half before dark. I'm looking at the same spot, and the reeds, like bushes, were quite high, and I just see like this grey, and I'm like, what? Like, is that it? Like, oh. And then I'm like, holy shit, it's that. And then I got to turn all my filming gear. I'm like, it's all dead. Like, because I filmed it as a B-roll. I haven't recharged anything from midday. I was like, oh, fuck. So GoPro's dead. The big camera's dead. I was like, no. So this is a freaking joke. Like, the animal was 60 meters from me or whatever it was. Like, this is absolute joke. And like, I was like, I filmed a little bit on my phone, and then it kind of worked out because the reeds were so high. I took my camera off my tripod. I put my rifle up on it, and then I dropped it. Like, ironically, I could have taken a bow and got it with the bow.
Yeah.
Like it would have been really easy to sneak in from there, but I just wasn't taking any chances. And so yeah, I shot that and dropped on the spot, and they're so small. Like I couldn't believe how I was like, this thing is tiny. Like I gutted it and then I literally carried it to camp. I was like, I'm used to packing out fallow. Like this is, yeah. And it was just, it was really a surreal experience because like hunting on an island, like, yeah, and you're just like, this is, I feel like I should be in trouble. Like, am I gonna get arrested? Like, I've got a gun on public land. Like, I'm coming to WA. Like, this is wild. And no, it was really cool. And then I took it back to camp, and like, obviously my shot was a bit back because I had buck fever. Like, I haven't had since ever.
Yeah.
Like, I was shaking like mad, and like, I was just like I'm trying to hold it on this tripod that's like for cameras, not steady. Like, but yeah, dropped it, got it back to camp, and then I washed it out in the ocean, which was pretty cool. Like I was like, got to clean it all out, and booked my ride off for the next day and everything. And then yeah, like I managed to hit up a follower, and he's like, yeah, come use my shed. Like I've got all this stuff. You can freeze it, you can do this. And I was like, sweet. So I went to his place and we cleaned it up. He showed me all of his hog deer. I was like, man, he's like 8 on the wall or something. And I was like, you're killing it. He's like, yeah, well, live in the area. And so he obviously hunts public land pretty hard and stuff. And yeah, it was awesome. Like I now I'm like, oh, like I said it to all my mates who hunt as well. And they're all like, now like, yeah, we're entering next year. One mate was like, oh, I wonder how much it would cost. And he's like, oh, $7,000 on private lands. Like that's not happening. Nah. So yeah, no, it was very special experience. I'm gonna definitely be applying next year. But it was wild because I chatted to the GMA guy, and I gutted and got it into the guy. And he's like, oh, it's like 28 kilos of the stag gutted. He's like, oh, that's a big stag for the island. I was like, really? Like that's big? Like it wasn't that old of a deer. And he was like, yeah, no, it's a big stag. On the mainland, there's been one as big as 55 kilos, but on the island they're pretty small. And then only one other hunter got a deer that week, so it was the worst period bar one in 4 years or something.
Yeah, that's nuts.
I was very, very fortunate. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. You had a completely different experience to my Snake Island trip. Like, as you know, our group was bar one was really good. We all worked together. You know, majority of us shared a camp together, and you know, like the first night. I left, you left all the hunting gear in camp, but took the backpack and went and scouted out where we were going. And we seen, 10 deer that night on the Sunday night. And you're like, all right, we're coming back here tomorrow. Waited to 8 a.m., had breakfast, marched out there, got out there to hunt in the afternoon. And as soon as it was like 7 o'clock hit, a deer walked out, and I messaged one of the other guys who was hunting the same clearing as me, and I'm just like, are you guys going to shoot it? And they're like, no, we want something bigger. I'm like, all right, I'm shooting it then. And it was it was less than 100 meters away, and I've just I've crawled into 60 meters with the 270. I'm like, I'm getting as close as I can because I do not want to miss this shot. 100 meters to 60 meters isn't going to make much of a difference, but
not with the 270,
I'm just I just had to get in as close as I could, and just made sure, again, buck fever. I had it, I'm just insane. And I drew mine. I had my New Zealand trip booked in for April, and I drew mine. Oh, and not even April, end of March, and I drew mine for February. So I had go up to the wife. I'm like, hey, I've drawn this. I know it's 4 weeks before I go to New Zealand for a week and a half, and gone to work. I'm like, I know I've got this time off, but hey, can I get some unpaid leave off and just try and get this done as quick as possible? And they're like, yeah, no worries. But yeah, it was such a cool experience, and made the group that we had were we still all talk. We got a group chat now, and we all still communicate and talk. And there was guy from Tasmania, a few guys from Vic, me from SA, a few guys from New South Wales, and it was just absolutely wicked group.
That's awesome.
But and I think 4 of us got deer out of the 7 in the group, which is great. And 3 were stags. So it's just a cool place.
I really wanted to just watch some, I kind of feel like I cheated the fact that I didn't get the chance to. I was literally appear, bang. I was like, I'm not I just wasn't gonna take the chance, especially after no one had seen anything. But I would love to go somewhere where there's quite a few just to watch, and see how they interact and see what their movements are and all that sort of stuff. Because just watching like watching deer is awesome. I love watching fallow when I get the chance and everything. But like just watching that smaller deer, because like even just the whole body morphology, the way it moved through the rushes was different. Like that was there was a couple minutes where I was at the scope on it. I was trying to just figure out where the head was and the ass was, because its back is above the reeds. Like you're just like, okay, where are you? Like, and that was all I got. Like I would have loved to have watched some in a more open area. Like that, I'm going to keep applying. Hopefully I can draw one of those earlier seasons and actually get the chance to just watch one move around.
Yeah, I'm going to always apply. There's never going to be a year that I don't apply now. It's just a cool experience. And you're like me, you had to travel. You had to travel much further than I did, but I had a 14-hour drive there.
It's not easy.
It's just the stuff that goes into it is just absolutely insane.
The logistics are almost as harder than the hunt in
100%.
In the scheme of things. Like just getting there and then getting on the island. The island, like I didn't like. Yeah, it's sand and you got to pack stuff, but like okay, it's not the end of the world. Like it's not like New Zealand where you got to go up a freaking mountain. So I didn't find that too hard. But it was just like actually getting onto the island and securing that and making sure you get the permits and like just making sure you're all legal. Like I was like that was more stressful to me. Like once I was on the island, I was like.
See,
okay.
I found Snake Island harder than New Zealand. Like,
really?
it was 27, 28 degrees when we were there. So, like, being in the sand, it's hot, it's warm. Like, we had to, from where we camped, because my stand failed as soon as we got off the boat. Like, the wheels just buckled. So, we've carried the stuff into the bushes and set up camp. It was, from memory, it was like 11 kilometers walk from where we camped to where we were hunting. So, I shot the deer at, 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock, whenever it was, I can't remember. We didn't get back to camp till like 2:30 in the morning, 1:30 in the morning. Yeah. Like just carrying it out. It was an absolute struggle with the sand, I had bad chafing, like, would stop and I'd like have my pants around my ankles, like airing out my thighs. And
yeah, I know those feelings, but like New Zealand, I just struggled because the guy we were with was a local, right? Yeah. And he, they're freaking mountain goats.
Yeah, they are.
Like me and my mate who went, like we were face planting up this mountain and we'd look up and be like, oh, Angus, like wait up for us. And he's like, oh, you're still back down there? Like we'd be like 100 meters behind him.
It's
and
the
he's
altitude.
Just, like, glided up this mountain and like we've just face planted up the mountain, like just constantly.
Yeah.
So like I struggled with that. Whereas like I because of where everyone was already on Snake Island, where I was, like my boat landed 50 meters, 150 meters from where I camped, and then that was maybe 700 meters from where I shot my deer.
Yeah. That would have been nice and easy.
And it was nice and cool. Like we were lucky with that. Like it was 20s, 19, 20 degrees, no rain for the week. Yeah.
No, insane. It's such a cool opportunity. So, people are going to hate me for talking about it so much on this podcast and giving it so much airtime because, more people are going to apply. I've got mates in the States that are applying, mates in New Zealand that are applying now,
I never posted I was applying until I'd gotten one. I was like, I'm not blowing this up. Like I've been applying for so long. Like I really want my chance before someone else gets
that's
selfishly.
It. Yeah. I was watching your story the whole time.
Well, I was chatting with the boys at Dog and Gun because I was like, this stuff's even good cold. And he's like, what the fuck? Like it's just pouring cold water over Dog and Gun packets. But like I was literally, I think I just drank like literally Dog and Gun coffee for like 18 hours. It was all cold. It was still good though. Like I give it to you, they're still really good cold. But like
that's really good stuff.
I upset a few people with that.
That's hilarious. Yeah, no, it's a cool hunt. It's a crazy hunt, and if you keep applying, like you said, you took what 8-9 years to, which is insane.
Like 8-9 years. Yeah, it was applying every year, and then like. Emergency the second time, and I know people have been drawn like 3 years in a row as well. So like
bloody Dano hunts.
That's where you were drawn last year. Like what's going on?
3 years in a row. He's more us in class. I'm wearing the high country hunting apparel hat right now. But
I'm wearing my stuff because it's free. Like it's lying around everywhere. Yeah.
So what would be your favorite thing to cook with hunted caught meat?
Favorite thing. Usually probably donkey. Honestly, donkey. Like if you said you could only eat one meat for the rest of your life, it's gonna be donkey. Like it's awesome.
I haven't had donkey yet.
Man, the reason we do it is to fill the freezers. Like me and a mate go, and it is the most illogical hunt. Like not illogical, but we drive like 18 hours. We will sit in 40-degree heat in the sun for like 12 hours during sunlight. Because like sometimes they'll turn up at 10 o'clock on the water, and sometimes you'll wait until it's almost dark, and then you'll shoot. And because you'll never see one, you'll see a mob, and you're under strict orders to shoot every single one you see.
Nuts.
And so like you're always like, okay, like last time we went, I think we shot 7 or 8.
Yeah, wow.
And it was literally like, okay, nothing's happening, and literally Brady was like, oh, like should we head back to camp? Like it's that dark. And I was like, oh, just give her 5 more minutes. Like I want to make sure we see nothing. And then literally you see the donkey come out. And like we were like, oh sweet. So where we'd set up was like 300 meters from the water, because it's about as close as you can kind of get to the water with like where the salt pans are and all that sort of stuff, or where our favorite spot to hunt them is. And so we're hidden up in this tree, and then they're 200 meters past that, and we just see them like they're just boogieing across the edge of it, and we're like, no, stop. Like, and like it ends up with me shooting them at 500 meters with 300 Win Mag. And yeah, got all like, and then so yeah, shot all 7 or 8 of them, whatever it was. 13 rounds of 300 Win Mag went. All but one was a miss, and all were good shots. So I was stoked about that. Like I went through afterwards and like checked everything. All were kill shots, but anyone who's shot them will tell you that. They're a pack animal. Like at the end of the day, like you shoot them and they stand there, and you feel like the biggest dickhead because like you've shot it and you know it's dead. Like you can see it's dying. It's still standing, and so usually we'll shoot everything a couple times until everything's dead. But like the first shot I made was a perfect shot. It's like, okay, move on to the next one, but then you get up to them like, all right. Like I barely want to talk to the camera because like we've now got 7 donkeys like
to gut and skin and
like hi bye like, and it's literally like. We shot those at 5 and we finished at like 2 a.m. butchering. And you just like your back hurts, everything hurts, you're cooked, and you're like, and like we've always booked off a week or so, and the minute you get something, you feel like last time we took a trailer with eskies on the trailer and we filled these eskies, and like the next day we're like, oh, we were like, we'll sleep in. We woke up at like 9, like, oh, we'll go check, and then we sat there for 2 hours and we're like, we know we've still got like a full day of butchering. Like after we get this, and we're like, should we head back? Like we've got like a 12-hour, 13-hour drive. Like should we head back? Because then we get to Perth, we had a butcher. It's like, yeah, let's do it. Like let's go. So like we packed everything up, went back, and then literally we started butchering at like from the primal cuts into packages from 7 a.m. and we finished at 8 p.m.
That's crazy.
And like you finish it, and like, if people go to my Facebook page, you'll see it. Like I did a meat angel with all of the meat. I was like, this is awesome, like a meat angel, and
That's
like so like. It's cost effective because you come back with a couple 100 kilos of meat. It's brutal on the body, and I absolutely love the entire experience.
What's your favorite like meal to cook with it, with the donkey?
I just love like we'll do T-bone steaks out of them.
Yeah, beautiful.
And they're awesome. Like it's as good as a beef steak.
Yeah.
Like and just depending on the animal, like it's amazing. Like it's just so versatile. I think that's why.
Yeah, cool.
There's no gaminess to it. Like if you we've shot one that was like, I cut it open and I was like, oh, okay, this meat's real dark.
Yeah.
Like, and he was a mature stallion. He was covered in bite marks and wounds where he's been fighting. Like his neck, there was no hair on his neck. It was all calluses.
Yeah, crazy.
From where he's been bitten by other stallions. And like his ass was covered. And I was like, and like that was the first one we'd shot and we hadn't seen anything else. And we're like, oh, like, okay, we're going to eat this one. Like that is what it is. We ended up shooting more that trip, but apart from that, normally it's like it looks like a beef steak, you know, like a grass-fed beef steak. Depending on the animal, it can be a bit tough or not. But yeah, just that as like a T-bone steak. It's my wife's favorite.
Yeah, wicked.
Like she's like, you eat the venison, I'll eat the donkey all day long.
That's awesome.
Or like one of the things I was really into before I got picky about like plastics and stuff was we would sous vide ribs. So we'd take the donkey ribs and we'd marinate that with like, our spices like chipotle and paprika and cayenne, and then we'd add some salt and pepper. I'd put some butter in there. Yeah. I usually put a stock cube in there as well. Then we'd vac seal that. So there's no liquids. And then we'd sous vide that at about 65 degrees. We'd run it at 72 for about 3 hours because that's high enough to break down your muscle fibers. We'd do that for about 12 to 18 hours. and then I'd pull it out, I'd let that cool in the package, and that reabsorbs all of that juice that it's now created. And then when that cools, and then I would pull it out, and then I would crank the oven up to literally the hottest temperature it could go on grill for about half an hour. So it is so hot, and then I would slide that in, and you would get this most amazing crunchy bark on this bone, and the meat was full of juice and tender and delicious, and you'd bite that, and it was so good. And I was all about that, and we haven't really used the sous vide for a while because I've been a bit
microplastics.
yeah, I've gone real picky about a lot of that stuff. Like,
someone listens to Rogan and Shana Swan.
I listened to that Shana Swan podcast, and I was like, I like my testicles. Like, I've only got one. Like, I've got to protect that now. Like, I can't. No risks on that now, mate. Like fucking hell. Like, it's like real particular about that.
Yeah, don't blame you, man. Don't blame you. So, how do you see the public views on hunting and hunters?
Well, the people I chat to are great. Like, I don't get that many bad reactions. Maybe it's the people I associate with. Like, I get face-to-face interactions are usually pretty good.
Yeah.
I think it would surprise people how many are default on our side, and they're only off our side when they see something that they can't instantly explain or they can't easily explain. And like, we're our own worst enemies. I think we feed, people. Yeah, we feed the machine more than anyone else does on negative reviews. But I think generally, like, the default is tolerant. I think the minority is very aggressive anti. But I think if as long as we continue to do things like meat diplomacy, I don't think it's going to hurt. I think we're only going to improve that. I think my hope is it's just like generally I do live in the country now, so that changes things a bit as well. But even when I lived in Perth, like, generally people were pro. Like that, like, you chat to people, and as the minute you said, "Oh, it's because all we eat," they go, "Oh, cool!" Like, they're all for it. Like, "Oh, that makes sense." In their brain, all good. You do that all day long. Like, they're fine with that. Oh, you shoot foxes because they kill lambs. Cool. Like, the minute you put the extra description line that if you said I'm a trophy hunter and all the connotations with that, like, then they're gonna hate you. But if you say, oh, I go shoot foxes, which is like kind of trophy hunting, no matter what you look at it, you're not taking the meat.
Yeah.
You take the skins. If some people take the skins, I take the skins. You say that, then you go, oh, okay, I'm cool with that. Or you say I go deer hunting because it fills my freezer. Oh, I'm cool with that. And you just talk about the meat and not the antlers. People, like, I don't get that many bad reactions. Yeah,
that's good.
Either way. What do you think? You think they're positive or negative?
Look, majority of people I speak to, it's positive. When you start posting stuff on social media, it can turn negative with photos because people are only seeing, the happy snap of you with whatever animal you've killed. That's
one of my donkey hunting video comments. Like, I've killed Jesus's bearer and the animal that bared the cross for our sins, and how could I do that? And you clearly can't shoot, and you're a monster. And you chat to that same person face to face. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. I get the same. Feral cats. I had a big scandal a few years back with posting some feral cats on. Doxed by Anonymous, and Joe Rogan spoke about it, and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, it's just like, the average person I chat to, they're all right. And I've had chats to vegans about it, and we might not agree on some aspects of it, but at the end of the day, they're like, as long as you're eating it, it's fine, or as long as it's for pest control, it's fine, or as long as you're not shooting, as long as you're not going to Africa and shooting stuff. And then I get into the whole African conservation side of stuff, or the North American side of conservation, and then explaining all of that stuff. So like, it's majority positive in person, and then social media tends to take that out because you're posting the happy snaps.
It highlights the negative. The irony is, like, the best videos I do are the ones that I get the most hate for. Which is great. Like, I love it. Like, I like whenever people say I'm the worst thing ever, I'm like, thank you. Like, appreciate the comment. It helps
water
the algorithms.
Water off a duck's back at the end of the day.
And you got to be like that. But like, that's just social media. It highlights the cesspit of humanity to an extent. But I just like vegans and vegetarians. Like, the irony is we're like on the same side for like 80% of it.
Yeah.
Like we're so close on 80%
Meeting
of
in
it.
the middle,
and then
yeah.
it's just the problem, like the 10 to 20% that we're not is like really, really on the opposite side. Like we agree on most things. Like we don't want animals to suffer. We don't want animals to be needlessly in pain. I once heard a farmer say and it's stuck with me for like the last year. It was like, animals don't measure their life. Like they've got no concept of how long they've lived. They've only got a concept of the quality of their life.
Yeah.
And like that's stuck in my head. Like and I think about that all the time. It's like we don't want animals to be suffering. Like we don't want battery caged chickens, or we don't want like you know all that stuff. Like we want them to have the best life that they can possibly have, but we're just gonna eat them. Like,
that's it.
You know.
Like 100% agree with you. And then you just get those extremists that blow it out, like your mate in Western Australia, Tash Peterson, you know?
Yeah, go post on my videos. It's good for me. Yeah, it's fine. Like, I could be hated. I don't care. Like, it doesn't bother me.
How would you, if like you could change the public views on hunting and hunters, how would you change it for the better?
I think meat diplomacy.
Yep.
Like I think just getting people to understand that. Yeah. Like it just like I really can't stress that to people enough. I have the conversation all the time. It's like if you just say to another hunter, you should take someone out.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, that's a huge undertaking. Like, yeah, we've all done it. We all do it. Like, but that in itself is a huge undertaking to get someone out and get them out, and then have to kind of, for better terms, baby them through the experience.
Yeah.
That's not an easy task, and we're all time poor. But like, we can all cook a meal for a bunch of people. Like, the only thing you're not doing that is because you're fucking lazy. Like, get off your ass and cook for a bunch of people, and that will do more for our benefit than anything else ever will. Or like, give some free meat away if the cops aren't going to break down your door for doing that. Like, I don't like, just like, I give my family, like, I was like, I filled my freezer. I was like, cool. All right. All my family, I dropped off care packages of meat to. Like,
That's
here you
awesome.
go, here you go, here you go. Like, take all of this. Ironically, I'm like, actually need to shoot an animal now because I'm running out of meat. But like just doing that sort of stuff, and like, that will do more for our cause than anything else will. Like,
100%.
And then they see, they'll see a photo of someone with a dead animal that's bloody or this or that, and they go, oh, that's horrible. But like, I know that's not my experience.
Yeah.
And that one-to-one experience will always have a greater weighting than anything else will, I think.
Yeah. 100% agree with you there. 100%. And final question, what is hunting to you?
It's just who I am. Like, I don't know, like, I don't know what to describe it. Like, it was not something I understood until I did it.
Yeah.
And then it was all I understood.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, anyone that is of the same brain will understand when the wife goes, you need to get out of the fucking house. You need to go hunting. And you're like, oh, am I getting grumpy and shitty? And she goes, yes, go away. And you're like, okay. And they kick you out of the house. Like, we've all been like that.
100%.
And we're like, oh, we're getting ticky and we're getting anything. And it's just, for want of a better word, it is who we are. Like, it is in our DNA. It's just like, people say it's a sport or it's a lifestyle. It's like, I can't, like, that's not a great enough weighting, I think, for how I feel. And I'm sure some with better words will describe it.
I hate the sport analogy when it comes to hunting. I can't stand it, but I have to, you have to use it all the time because it's the only way that people who understand sports can get kind of like thinking of all these different campaigns to run against like this anti-bow hunting type of stuff. Like talking to people that have never hunted. It's like, what would you do if they banned football tomorrow? Like, all AFL's banned, all like country league football is all banned. You can't do it because, the CTE, it's too damaging to people. Yeah. And, the drinking culture is not great for people either. So it's banned from tomorrow. Like that's how I can only think to explain to people how the bow hunting ban affects me. Like, you can still go to the park and kick a football. You're not allowed to play a game of football, though. Like, that's the...
Yeah, and like the only way I have the conversation like, why do you hunt? I was like, is there something that you get up is there something in your life that you think about for 70% of the day? They're like, what do you mean? It's like, no. So I get up and I go, damn it, the weather's good. I really should have gone hunting. And then you go, oh man, like, I bet you the rabbits are out. Or you're thinking in the middle of the day, it's like, do you reckon I could get a deer this weekend? And then you're thinking, oh, I wonder when the fawns will drop because I don't want to shoot one with a fawn. But then, I had so much fun watching that happen. And then they're like, see, you're telling me 70% of the day you think about that. It's like, that's underwriting it. Like it's probably 90% of the day. And they're like, and you have conversations with people like, so like, oh, but spoil, like, no, do you think about AFL for 90% of the day? And they're like, no. And they're like, you're not really fathoming it. Like, if you said to me tomorrow, we're banning all shooting, all hunting in Western Australia, I'd be like, all right, we are going to have to move. I'll sell everything. Like, I don't want it. Like, we've invested so much and so much sweat capital, like that. I would go, it has to happen. Like, I will go insane without it. Like, legitimately, it's just, I never understood what I was missing. Like, I was not a happy kid and I was not a happy person for a lot of my life. And then once I figured out what I was missing, I was like, holy shit, life's great. Like, this is amazing. Like, this is so good. Like, I get to be out. I get to smell the fresh air. Like, sport doesn't cover it. Lifestyle doesn't cover it. Like, someone with better words would do better than me. But like,
that's perfect, man. Like, you know, like you said, you're thinking about it 90% of the day. You know, like when you were saying 70%, I'm like, nah, it's not 70%. It's above 90. Like, you know,
no one believes that though.
I'll be going to sleep like a week before a trip. And like, if I know the property well, I'll be walking the property in my head, playing out every single scenario. Like, how will I react if an animal comes out from here, or if it's, you know, if there's an animal feeding here, or it's walking this way, or if it spooks this way. And I'll be playing out shot positions in my head. I'll be, you know, like all of this stuff, especially the rut. The rut's the worst time for it, because I'll be that excited to go hunting in the morning that I'll be playing every single scenario I can think of in my head. And then I'll be asleep dreaming about these scenarios. Like, I'll be having like physical dreams of me out hunting.
No, I'm 100%. Like, I'll literally check the wind 4 times a day to be like, has the wind changed? Like, I know which I'll like, because it just, you know, I'll walk different ways depending on the wind, and I'll be like, has it changed? No, it hasn't changed. 2 hours later, I was like, wonder if the wind's changed. And I'll like, it'll just be like, no, I need to know this. Like, on a Tuesday, I'm going hunting on Saturday. Like, what do you don't need to know at all, but like, it's just, you know, it's all you think about.
The only time I care what the weather is, if like wind, rain, sun, is if I'm going out hunting or fishing. I never really check like, everyone's like, oh, what's the weather doing? Oh, I don't care. I'm not going hunting or fishing.
Yeah, the irony is, like, I'm constantly checking the weather for like going hunting. It never stops me going hunting. It'll be like, oh, we got 20 mil of rain. I was like, well, I'm going hunting anyway. Like, I'm not gonna not go because there's rain. Like, who cares?
Yeah,
like, you know, like, but I'll check it all week.
I might not go hunting, but I might go fishing instead if it's too hot. Yeah. Like, I'll be like, you know, oh, it's 35 degrees. It's not dropping below 20. I'll just go fishing in the kayak instead of going out hunting. But it's, you know, or I might go bow fishing. Like, it's too windy to go out in the kayak, so I'll head inland and go shoot carp with a bow. And, you know, it's just like constantly, it's like the wife will be like, are you hunting or fishing this weekend? And I'm like, I'm waiting for the weather to update a little bit closer, and then I'll decide what I'm doing. I might do both.
One or the other.
No, it's that what is hunting to you is my favorite question. I go on about it every single podcast, but I just love all the different answers and how I can relate to every single person's answer on that question.
Yeah, well, we're all different, but we're all kind of the same.
Yeah, very, very much.
It's just, we all share this common passion that, like, it's just, you could not do. Like, once that switch gets flicked in your brain, if your switch is there, like, you're not doing it.
Oh, it's like you meet anyone that hunts or fishes, and it's just like that scene in Step Brothers. Did we just become best friends? It's like, you know, I met my wife's colleagues last night. We went to one of their houses for a barbecue, and one of them has guns. He shoots. He's done a little bit of hunting, and, you know, all we did was chat hunting, fishing. You know, like, he's got his guns out, and then, like, the new guy on the team, he's like, oh yeah, I've gone out shooting deer, and I know some hunters, and then we're all just like just chatting about hunting and fishing all night.
Yeah. You like, it's imagining, like, any party, any event, you're like, who here will I like? And
that's it.
And then you're chatting about other stuff. You're like, do people really find asking how your life is interesting? Like, this is the most boring conversation I've ever had. Like,
and then, like, someone's like, what, you hunt animals? And you're like, all right, here, let me show you. Let me show you the food, photos, videos.
Yeah. The irony is, like, my phone's full of, like, sunrise, sunset pictures and food. And then you'd be like, oh, there's a dead animal. Like, yeah, that's what I ate in the previous picture. Like,
Hilarious. So thank you for coming on tonight. You know, we've been teeing it up for a while, and you know, ever since I chatted to you when you first drew your Snake Island position, I've wanted to get you on. You know, you hadn't. It's funny how some people don't come on your radar. Like, you know, it's crazy. But yeah, since then, you know, been watching your stuff and it's been awesome. If people want to check it out and they've enjoyed what they've heard, where can they find you on social media?
The Aussie Outdoorsman on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. YouTube's probably the one that I push the most.
Yeah, beautiful.
And I should say the irony is that the Aussie Outdoorsman was the joke of a name. It was because like I was terrible at all this shit. Like it was like this is kind of funny that like I'm calling myself this because I'm not good at it. But yeah, it stuck. So that was that. And yeah, YouTube's probably the main one because we put out more videos than anything else really now. Yep. And we're hoping to kind of do more and more of those. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be checking them out. And yeah, you got any videos of your dogs finding truffles and that on there, or?
Well, I should probably do one actually. The season's still yeah. Like, there's a couple on Instagram actually. I'll put some out on YouTube. I'll do some dog finding work, and I'll put a video together for that because that's good fun.
Do you get to keep any of your truffles that you kept?
No,
you have to sell
I get
them
paid by the hour because I contract out to the farmers. But I do get quite a lot of free truffle throughout the year. They're pretty generous farmers, so it's pretty awesome. Like they'll be like, oh yeah, here you go, okay, great, and then you're like chucking that all over a venison roast, or you're making truffle butters.
Amazing.
Or my favorite thing is you get like you get a camembert, like a brie, you slice that horizontally, you shave truffle on that, and then you sandwich back up. You leave it for a day or two, and it becomes like eating like a block of fatty truffle. Like it's delicious. And then we slice that, and we'll make a steak sanger, like a venison steak sanger with tenderloins, and we'll put that on there. Whew, it's so good. Like you're just getting this melty fat truffle, and like that's pretty amazing thing to eat.
Okay, that sounds pretty amazing.
We'll have to get you over sometime and cook you a feed with it. You'll love it.
It's so hard. Do I want to go to communist WA? Like,
well, yeah, like you got to get your passport stamped, and then you'll be on a criminal checklist for the rest of your life. So
cross the North Korea border, you know.
Yeah, well, we've probably said things in this podcast. Like I'm showing about 7 minutes, the police would knock down my door and arrest me for something I've said. So you got to be careful. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Hope you're all safe over there, and I hope that things can slowly start turning around for the betterment. I know that Kate, she still wants to fight for WA. So, and there's lots of other, you know, I hear all the shooting organisations over there and kind of teaming up and trying to fight stuff, so that's somewhat good to hear. So I hope it does get better over there. If not, you're always welcome in South Australia. Come over here, and you know we'll take you out bow fishing. I'm sure you have. I'm not sure if you can do that in Western Australia or not.
No, it's classified as spearfishing. Yeah, so anyway, you can spearfish, you can bowfish. So no fresh water, but any salt water.
See, that's what I'm jealous of. I want to saltwater bowfish so much. We can only bowfish carp down here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And even then, like
rays and sharks and
that's what I want to do. Like that's been my dream ever since I started bowfishing. Is like sharks and stingrays and stuff like that. There's a fella I've spoken about a few times on the podcast, Joel, over in New Zealand on the North Island. He bow fishes snapper off the rocks.
Yes.
He burleys in, and it's so friggin' cool. It looks so wicked.
Yeah, there's a few spots I've been thinking about doing is trying to do a mission to bowfish yellowtail kingfish in WA.
Do it.
And
I'll live through you.
Thinking about it. Yeah, like I've been like, oh, this would be really good fun, and I keep thinking about doing it, and then I'm like, the problem is like that is a trek of a mission to set up and do, and like if I don't get anything, I would be devastated.
I bet. But...
Yeah, so I know a few spots to go, and I'm like, oh, this would be awesome, but also like if I don't get anything, that'll be depressing.
I bet. Well, I really appreciate you coming on, mate. You know, I've taken up enough of your time, and if you ever pass through South Australia, sing out, and we'll catch up for a drink and get you out for a shootout here.
Sounds like a plan, mate.
Nah, easy, mate. Thank you very much. Catch ya. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Hunting Connection Podcast. We hope you've enjoyed our discussions and gained valuable insights into the world of hunting, fishing, and the outdoors. To stay connected with us and never miss out on an update, please be sure to follow us on social media, all at Hunting Connection Podcast. We appreciate your support and would love for you to share the podcast with your friends and family. Don't forget to tag us in your hunting photos on social media and let us know about your experiences. Your feedback is invaluable to us, so please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Together, we continue growing and delivering more captivating episodes for all hunting enthusiasts. Stay connected, stay informed, and keep pursuing your passion for the hunt. Until next time, happy hunting.